we do have a quorum, so we're going to get started with the retreat. Good morning. Good morning. As you all can see, I'm not the mayor, but what I'd like to ask is for you all to keep the mayor and his family in your prayers. From what I understand, his sons were in an accident this morning, a car accident, but they're okay, and he'll just be a little late getting here this morning, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So keep him and his family in your prayers. I want to, first of all, thank all of you all for being here this morning. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday and spent time with your family, and that God was watching over you, and we all are now here in this new year and looking forward to continued progress. I want to certainly congratulate the city manager for his leadership because the annual review that was done was phenomenal, Mr. City Manager. It really highlighted those things that the City of Tallahassee has done and been successful at, and certainly want to thank the commission for the work that they do in leading this city. We are very proud of the staff and certainly the leadership that we have here in the City of Tallahassee. So the mayor will be here. He just will be running a little late. But at that, Mr. City Manager, are we ready to get started?
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Turn it over to you.
All right. Let me thank you for your comments. And by the way, before I begin, I would like to go run down the agenda for what to expect today. We have a full agenda. You have your agenda materials. I'm very pleased with them. I think they do a good job of capturing where we are in terms of progress. Of course, we've been able to use this meeting, your annual retreat, as an opportunity to review your strategic plan. So now we're into our second version of a 5-year strategic plan. I think that's proved very helpful. You see so many people in the room today, department directors and others, that really provides good guidance from your leadership of the strategic direction of the City of Tallahassee. And last year we were able to accomplish a lot. We are very much on course for doing that again, and you'll hear some of that today. And so I'm very pleased with last year's results and happy to share a view of this year. Today we'll begin with a strategic plan update that'll be led by Dr. Thomas Whitley and his team. They are instrumental in pulling this information together. As you might imagine, with the number of departments the City of Tallahassee has, it does take a lot of effort to pull together all of the relevant information, working directly with all the departments and the divisions to capture the picture of our progress and our status. And so they'll lead that discussion today. We'll also have Chief Sanders, Fire Department Chief Sanders, provide a brief presentation related to the fire department and key metrics related to our fire department, as well as Chief Revel. He will make a presentation. I believe it was at your last commission meeting, it might have been the commission meeting before that. There was a request to bring back information related to our public safety cameras. And so we've been able to, it's immediately in line with our strategic priorities and the efforts of the police department and the success, in part, that they've been able to see in reducing crime and being effective in law enforcement. So Chief Revel will provide a presentation on that as well as part of our strategic plan update. Following that, we have a legislative update on property tax. We'll be joined by Casey Cook from the Florida League of Cities. You know Casey Cook, of course, and the league does a fantastic job representing the interests of the cities across the state of Florida. And as it relates to the property tax discussion, we all have common interests. And so I'm looking forward to that discussion in terms of sharing information. There's been a lot of discussion about it. I think, as the public, we need to continue to learn about it, be informed about the discussion and how that impacts our local governments, in this case Tallahassee. And so And Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we'll do all of that prior to breaking. We'll have some lunch served. Ideally, we'd like to stay a little ahead of schedule just to give you time and flexibility to work. Then following our break, we'll come back to a commission discussion, which is common in the annual retreat, and then we'll adjourn. Of course, we have a city commission meeting that begins at 3 o'clock at City Hall, so we'll be mindful of the time. So that's our rundown. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if you're ready, I'll turn it over to Dr. Thomas Whitley, and we'll begin our presentation.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. Appreciate y'all's time, and really I'd like to start off just thank you for your leadership, right? I mean, this strategic plan, the past 5-year plan, the version that we have in front of you today that we're wrapping up the first year of wouldn't be possible without your leadership from the very beginning. And I like to tell the team here and tell all of our new employees when we talk to them, the strategic plan at its heart, what I believe it does is the thing that Commissioner Williams-Cox talks about all the time, which tells our story, right? It simply gives us a tool to tell the story of the good work that the men and the women in the city of Tallahassee do every day. And that is wide-ranging, as you know, that it's just about impossible to understand everything that the city does on a daily basis. We see it, and the strategic plan gives us an opportunity to get just a glimpse of that. So as the manager said, you got a full agenda here this morning and early this afternoon, and then an afternoon meeting. There may be something that a lot of people want to talk about on that meeting too. So you got a full day, that. Now we will work through this at a decent pace. What will become evident, you already know and you already expect, is we're going to scratch the surface, just barely. There are a lot of targets in here, and each target has a lot of depth to it, and tells about the work that is happening all across the city with your leadership. As the manager said, we've got some really good information, some public safety information to highlight, to bring before you that's relevant to a lot of the discussions that you've been having lately. So we'll get right into it. The 7 priority areas that we have that have been carried over from the previous plan. What you also know is not listed on here, but has been fully incorporated, and we've got a wrap up to talk about it, as well as the Southside Action Plan. That what we did, based on your direction, was to fully incorporate the Southside Action Plan into the overarching strategic plan. It is integral and it is central to the strategic plan. So we've got our 7 areas. The strategic innovation team that's up here with me today, Thomas St. John, Christella, Jean-Pierre, and Matthew Hardy, have done a significant amount of work on this. They've worked with every department across the organization to ensure that we're tracking the targets and the work that those departments are doing, that we're pulling all that information together, as the manager said, so that we can have a good update for you, provide you good information for your direction and your leadership. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot. And I'm going to let them, they're the ones that have spent a significant amount of time with this plan, so I'm going to let them do the talk and give us some updates. As always, stop us at any time if you have questions about something that you see or that you hear, or even if not, and we'll go through this, and I'm going to turn it over. We'll start with Thomas St. John.
Thank you, Thomas. So the first priority we're going to talk about today, and good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Is our economic development. And our goal for economic development is to advance the city of Tallahassee as a competitive, innovative, and sustainable regional economic hub. As the largest economic hub in the region, we attract jobs, capital investments, talent, and opportunity, creating a more resilient Tallahassee for the future. Our first objective under this priority is to enhance and modernize infrastructure to enable capacity for growth. Enhancing and modernizing infrastructure ensures Tallahassee has the capacity and reliability needed to compete for investments and to accommodate future growth. One of the unique ways that we do this is by assessing, remediating, and redeveloping brownfields. In 2025, we did 21. These are areas that are typically abandoned or underused commercial properties that are suspected to be or known to be contaminated with environmental pollutants. So by assessing, remediating, or redeveloping these properties, not only are we improving the environment, by improving these properties, but we're efficiently reclaiming underutilized land to support housing needs, investment, and to revitalize and beautify our community. This slide also represents a large portion of the infrastructure investments that we are making across Tallahassee to set us up to accommodate future growth. And this next slide, in a way, represents a return on those investments.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, may I ask a question?
Commissioner Porter.
Thank you. So those figures on the first slide, that is what took place last year, right? Like that was the figure?
Correct.
40 Okay.
This is 2025 data. The whole presentation will be for 2025.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner?
No, that's all, thank you.
Okay, all right.
So our second objective is to drive economic diversification and growth in Tallahassee by attracting and expanding diverse industries. To highlight one particular target on this slide, the 5,200 net new jobs added in 2025 is a very significant number, and 40% of that new growth were in targeted industries, applied sciences, manufacturing and transportation logistics, professional services and information technology, and healthcare. Showing that return on investment from the previous slide in Objective 1. Another return on investment, so to say, for the enhancement and modernization of public infrastructure is the over 1.5 million square feet in new commercial space that was permitted in 2025, which will have a direct correlation on the jobs, wages, and economic impact in general paid forward by the investments made in public infrastructure. And speaking on the economic impact, our third objective is to increase Tallahassee International Airport's economic impact on the region. A strong airport connects Tallahassee to outside markets, tourism, talent, and trade. Increasing the economic impact of the airport strengthens Tallahassee as a regional gateway for commerce, visitors, and other opportunities. The one target I'd like to highlight here is the airport economic impact growth trends. Economic impact of the airport in 2014, which is not listed on the slide, but in 2014 was $399 million. In 2019, it increased to $599 million, and in 2023, it increased again to $859 million. So we're seeing a growth trend from $399 million all the way up to $859 million in 2023. We're expecting the next impact analysis to be in 2027, with the goal of reaching $1.25 billion economic impact for the airport. Some ways that we will get there will be through that international processing facility and foreign trade zone designation, which will help boost the economic impact towards the goal of 1.25 million. With that international processing facility, we should see annual passengers increase and that cargo number increase as well. The final objective under this priority is to stimulate new residential development. As we're all aware, a growing city needs housing capacity to support economic growth, affordability, and quality of life. The target I'd like to highlight here is, or one of the targets I'd like to highlight here is the 2.39-day permitting processing for residential construction. This is one of the lowest recorded processing turn times we've seen since we started tracking this metric. It's just a testament to our growth management office and the efficiencies that they perform. There were 2,200 new residential units completed in 2025 within city limits. 486 of those were on the south side, so essentially a quarter of those new completed units. In addition, there's 1,711 new residential units permitted within city limits, and 187 of those are on the south side, and those are not yet completed.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Commissioner Porter?
Thank you. Do we know how many of those residential units are low or extremely low income units?
We do have that number, but one thing I'd like to kind to share on that is we know with supply and demand that if there's ever a shortage in any sort of income or any sort of housing price, it drives those prices up because the demand outweighs the supply. What I do know is at least 2,200 of those are a new project on the south side, the Ridge Road Flats, which was 400 units for affordable housing.
Okay, if you could get back to me at some point with how many are low and extremely low income, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you, that's all.
Okay.
And with that, I will turn it over to my coworker, Christella, to talk about our impact on poverty.
Thank you, Thomas, and good morning, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. Our next priority area is impact on poverty, and the goal is to be a leading community partner that actively connects residents to resources that remove economic barriers and social barriers. The first objective in this priority area is to support education, training, and job readiness for target populations. A key part of this effort is strengthening individual capacity through education and workforce development. The city is and continues to invest in the advancement of youth development, education, and mobility. In 2025, we experienced 100% of the TFLA seniors successfully transitioning from the program into post-secondary pathways, including community colleges, four-year universities, and technical certification programs. Similarly, education and intervention initiatives also through the Temple program led to the graduation of 136 formerly at-risk graduates. And of those included 111 GED recipients and 26 students who enrolled in college or technical programs. These achievements both reflect the program's effectiveness and in preparing the students' success by ensuring viable pathways to long-term economic stability through the pursuit of meaningful careers. Star Metro has also been a critical role in supporting student success by providing more than 7,500 free monthly transit trips for K-12 students, which ensures safe and affordable access to school, extracurricular activities, and workforce opportunities. Reliable transportation removes a significant barrier to attendance and engagement and directly supports academic achievement and workforce readiness. These efforts were further strengthened by securing investments that ensured sustained support for individuals and families in need. The next objective that lives under this priority area is to increase housing affordability by facilitating new construction and rehabilitating existing homes. It's in recognition that housing costs are a major driver of financial hardships. So the city continues to increase housing affordability through a comprehensive strategy to efficiently preserve and expand and strategically grow housing options in Tallahassee. For example, through the energy efficiency grants, audits, and rebates, the city supported 6,933 homes with receiving reductions in utility costs and improving long-term affordability. At the same time, the city expanded home ownership by assisting 35 households with down payment support, including 9 in the South Side. And in parallel, the city invested in 104 homes, repairs and rehabilitations, including 31 in the South Side, which has preserved existing housing stock, strengthened neighborhood stability, and targeted areas with the greatest need. And when repairs and rehabilitation was not feasible, the city employed a strategic development in the multimodal transportation district by replacing 7 aging apartment complexes with higher density development, resulting in adding 209 new net units and housing for over 2,800 additional residents. And these projects modernize infrastructure, promote efficient land use, and support walkable, transit-oriented living, all while reflecting the city's approach to maximizing resources, preserving existing neighborhoods, and facilitating housing affordability in an efficient, strategic, and thoughtful manner. And now I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Matthew, who's going to speak about organizational effectiveness.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Commissioner Williams-Cox.
I wanted to take this information that Christelle just provided to take this opportunity to thank our partners in our community who have helped us to achieve these, the Urban League being one of them with some of the things that they've been able to do, and other builders to help us be able to do this work. So just kudos and shout out to our staff, but also to our community partners who've helped us to achieve these goals as well. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Commissioner Porter?
Thank you. I was wondering, you know, I frankly wish our goal were stronger. You know, I think all of our goal is to end poverty, not just to be a leading community partner that connects residents to resources. But I'm grateful that we are doing that, and I think we're doing a good job of doing that. I'm wondering, for these programs, as we are measuring them, are we making an impact on poverty? Like, are we, with the ALICE reports that come out where we see the poverty rate, my understanding is not that poverty has gone down in Tallahassee. So while, of course, it's important that we're helping people and connecting them to resources, I'm also interested, as we all are, in whether poverty is actually declining in the city or not. Are we tracking that along with the other measurement, you know, objectives and targets that we're measuring?
I'm gonna have Thomas.
Excuse me, thank you for the question, Commissioner. As you know well, we have a significant impact on the community in a lot of realms, but we are not the only impact and not even close to the major impact on what drives poverty. Of course, wages do that. We do what we can with our employees. Housing affordability does that. We have a holistic approach, as Christella talked about there. So there are a number of factors. It's complicated, as you know full well. So of course we're familiar with the ALICE report and the measures of poverty and things of that nature. And I think what you see here and the targets that you as a commission have approved for the strategic plan is what are the areas that we can have an impact, and how can we measure what our impact is, knowing that we're not the only organization or entity or force that plays a role in the larger poverty discussion. Of course, it's important, and I think that's why we have this as a priority area in the strategic plan. But we do understand that while we would like to control it all, we simply don't.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, may I add to that?
Mr. City Manager.
I think it's Commissioner, thank you for the question. I think that's important. Matthew, is it possible to go back to the prior slide? I think on this slide, and you recall when you adopted this element of the strategic plan, there was a lot of discussion to follow on what Dr. Whitley said about, what elements do you want to measure and where do we provide that impact? And if you look at tempo in particular, and you see a lot of outcome from that, the City Commission placed a high priority on engaging at the ground level individuals to change outcomes. And I know you've attended tempo graduations and you've seen our TIFLA students and all of that. And so now, just this past year, Tempo graduated 136 individuals. We're well above 500 individuals that have graduated from that program. And so you start to see this pipeline of changing lives. And ultimately, I do have confidence that does change that macro measure. But the macro measure has so many inputs to it. We at the direction of the City Commission, have identified those ground level actions that can be taken that change lives and ultimately change the landscape of poverty. Matthew, would you mind going forward to the next slide again? So the slide we just left talked about empowering individuals, education, training, and we know it's working. We've seen it. We've engaged with it directly. Dr. Kimball Thomas and his staff are doing a great job, and that they just have a passion for it, and I'm just proud to work with them. It's not a sterile measure. This is one of passion and engagement. But you also see the emphasis on the south side. That's been much discussed, and we know that for good reason. And so we've even gone down to measure at that level. And so I think the measures that you've adopted in your strategic plan ultimately do aggregate over time. They do feed into that impact of poverty, but they're measuring things that we can get our arms around, that we're engaged with, and really at measuring people, the outcome of individuals and people. And I think it's a great question, that it is hard to measure things that are so macro and that may involve thousands, if not more, inputs and actions. And so I did want to point that out, and the tempo is that it's a very unusual program. Cities don't do those programs. One could argue it's outside the scope of what a city does, right? So that probably falls more in line with what a school district does. But in order to engage people and make sure that they have the tools necessary to be successful in life, it's something that the city's doing. We're spending millions of dollars a year doing it. I think in our Tempo program, I'm going to look at Dr. Thomas, we're engaged with a few thousand individuals, which is just phenomenal. So I think it's a great point. I just wanted to add to that. We've covered a lot of ground, and we've started to refine those measures and metrics that are really changing long-term future outcomes. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. City Manager. Commissioner Williams-Cox and then Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, Commissioner Porter. I agree that we need to do our part to impact Alice. But I think that, and I'm just young enough to remember that when we put this strategic plan together in the first place, it was my emphasis that we included the impact on poverty in our strategic plan. And the reason you hear so much about Southside is because poverty is concentrated in this city, in District 1, which includes the Southside, which is where the two of us live. And so we're very, got a keen eye on that. But I think that it is important for the folks who collect ALICE data to also measure what kind of impact what we are doing, what the county is doing, what the state is doing, all governmental entities and other organizations are doing, and to see if it's really having meaningful impact on the ALICE numbers. Because as Dr. Whitley mentioned, we're just a factor. We have the county is doing things, the state is doing things, nonprofits are doing things, and so we cannot be expected to be the only contributor to having an impact on poverty. The goal is to eliminate poverty. That's the goal in the world. But here, in our little world here, we're doing our part, and I think that we're doing a tremendous job because we're monitoring it and we're measuring it, and we're applying different tools to have impact. That's huge, because a lot of places are not even paying as much attention to it. It's just happening on their own. If you look at the national scene, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of focus on poverty. So we've got to do it here in our community as best we can. So I encourage those who collect the ALICE data to let us know if what we're doing is having an impact. We're doing what we think we need to do, but if they have some suggestions on things that we might be able to tweak or do differently, I'm sure we're open to it. Thank you.
Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Great conversation so far. This issue is very personal and dear to my heart. Having grown up in extreme poverty in the city of Tallahassee, I know exactly what people are experiencing, whether that's going for weeks at a time without utilities, which creates all kinds of issues for families, relying on food stamps to put food on the table, going for days with absolutely no food in the cabinet. That's a very real lived experience in our community. Being evicted from substandard housing and trying to find the next place to go, all of these things have a real impact. So I do applaud the city of Tallahassee for connecting to services, because in the moment, those types of services make a very real, meaningful difference to people who are in poverty. But to Commissioner Porter's point, we need to be moving the needle. Connecting folks with resources directly when they need it is great, but if we're not moving in a direction where there's less people that need to be connected with those resources, I'm not sure we're doing the best we can. So we talked about, during the previous presentation, the kind of exponential growth and economic impact that we're seeing at the airport. We hear a lot about the economic impact of projects that come to town and the millions and billions of dollars. But the question is, where's that money going? Where are we really making that impact? Because when we look at real wages in Leon County over the last 5-6 years, they're stagnant. When we look at the poverty rate over the last 5-6 years, it's stagnant, sometimes growing, sometimes federal dollars get pumped down and we see a momentary increase. So as we continue to say, we're generating a large amount of economic impact, what we're seeing is people living in poverty or people just living at a median wage aren't seeing any benefit from the supposed economic impact. So we're seeing a real imbalance in growth and monetary growth in our community. I'm not clear where those dollars are going because we don't see them going to the people that live here. So I think we do need a new approach to what our goal is for the impact of poverty, to actually reduce the poverty rate. And I think we need to set a goal to increase real wages, the average real wage of the people in Tallahassee. Those goals, I understand, are more ambitious and harder to get, but if we're not focused on those goals and setting objectives to recruit the types of industries, we need to increase those wages. Look at wages with our own institution. Look at what we can do to really change those numbers, then we're going to continue to connect people with services for the next decade and continue to have people in our community living in the same condition. So I encourage us to be more ambitious in our goal setting, and I agree with Commissioner Porter. We need to do better at moving the needle. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matlow. You know, I wanted to add to that wonderful conversation, and I want to, again, commend the city manager and his staff for the work that they have done and what the city has done to address the issue of poverty in our community. When we look at many of the programs and services that the city provides, like Tempo and TIFLA and some of the others, and the support, the financial support that we give organizations in our community that also attempt to address the poverty issue, I think we're doing a tremendous job. Now, we can't solve poverty in and of ourselves because it's an issue that's well beyond the city of Tallahassee. We look at what's happening economically nationally. You know, the cost of living is increasing every day. You know, whenever I go into Publix, I'm shocked at what my bill is when I leave there for just a few items. And so, and the cost of housing and other essentials, the costs are just going up. And I think we are doing a good job of, as a city, of addressing those issues and also working with our local, state and federal partners to address those issues as well. I think we do a good job of providing the education and training that people need in order to be successful in the workforce. And as we do that and we create the jobs that they're eligible for, we will in fact begin to address this whole issue of poverty. But it's not something that the city of Tallahassee is going to do in and of itself. Our residents expect us to provide the services that improve their quality of life, not that we are a social welfare agency. We play a tremendous role in that, but we have to partner with others, the nonprofit organizations, as Commissioner Williams-Cox mentioned, to address the needs of the citizens in our community from that perspective. So I just want us to keep that in mind as we move forward as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We'll get back into it. I would note, in a really fantastic discussion, that I don't think anybody around the table here is satisfied.
Right.
Right. I mean, we always want to be
sure.
doing better and go further, while also recognizing where we are in relation to the world around us. And one data point that continues to stick out to me when we talk about housing affordability is the median home price in Tallahassee is $100,000 less than the median home price in the state of Florida. So it doesn't mean that we are completely where we want to be. Thomas St. John talked about increasing supply. That's something that y'all have helped with, been a leader on, to help overall housing affordability. But it is appropriate to recognize the work that's been done with your leadership and others in the community. So we'll continue to move on, if that's okay, Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
to the next section. So we'll let Matthew talk about organizational effectiveness. Again, to your point, as we focus on what are the core essential services that we provide as an organization.
Thank you, Thomas. Good morning, Commissioners. I'll be going over the highlights from the organizational effectiveness and public infrastructure sections of the strategic plan. First off, the organizational effectiveness section focuses on how the city achieves great results, and that's due to our workforce. The organizational effectiveness, our goal is to be an impact and focused, inclusive, pioneering, and technology-driven workforce. With that goal in mind, the first objective focuses on the foundation of organizational effectiveness, our workforce. The first objective is to attract, develop, and support the best talent. In fiscal year 25, the city's employee turnover rate was 5.81%, which is low by public sector standards and reflects a stable workforce. At the same time, 54% of new hires and 55% of promotions were women and minorities, showing progress towards a workforce that reflects the community that we serve. These efforts strengthen retention, leadership pipelines, and long-term succession planning. Having the right people is essential, but people do their best work when systems and processes support them. The next objective is to leverage technology and process improvements to deliver faster, more convenient services. Today, 86% of payments are received digitally, improving the customer experience and operational efficiency. This enables faster processing times and more convenient services for our residents. From an operational readiness standpoint, the city maintains a 97% fleet availability rate, supporting daily operations and emergency response. This is extremely important as the generally accepted industry standard for fleets is 90% availability. Maintaining a nearly fully available fleet helps make sure we're driving forward. And each of these efficiencies that we work on isn't just to make our city more efficient for its own sake. Each of these efficiencies is intentionally designed to deliver the highest quality, fastest, and most convenient services to our residents. Strong people and strong systems require strong financial stewardship to sustain them. The last objective within organizational effectiveness is to maintain the city's strong financial standing and fiscal stewardship practices. The city has been named the #1 best-run city in Florida, top 20 best-run cities in the nation, and this all culminated in the 2025 All-America City Award that we received in Denver this year. In fiscal year 25, the city was also awarded $66.5 million in grants, allowing us to leverage outside funding while reducing pressure on local revenues. To put this into perspective, over the last planning period, we received $305 million in grants, comparing that to roughly $274 million in tax revenues. That means we brought in more outside dollars than tax dollars, which allows us to stretch our taxpayers' investments. And every grant dollar that we leverage reduces the pressures on our citizens while expanding the scale and impact of what we can deliver, whether that's infrastructure, safety, mobility, or resilience. The city was awarded the GFOA Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting for the 43rd consecutive year. On that same note, the city also received the GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for the 40th consecutive year. To put these awards into perspective, the city has consecutively earned these awards from GFOA longer than my coworkers and I have been alive. When you combine strong financial stewardship with talented people and modern systems, you get operational excellence. And while each of the departments contribute to our success as an organization each and every day, I would be remiss not to share one of the most recent examples again, our fleet management department. In June 2025, our fleet department was recognized as the best #1 leading fleet in the nation, the highest honor in the industry. This recognition was announced at the Government Fleet Expo and Conference, the nation's largest annual gathering of public fleet professionals. Fleet is one of those departments that operate in the background, yet to keep the city running every day. What stands out to me from having worked with them through one of our rotations is how cost effective and how quickly they're able to turn things around due to things being like Ford certified, being able to do Ford certified work. And that's just an example of some of the behind-the-scenes excellence that the city was recognized as the #1 fleet in the nation this year. And this was among 19,500 municipalities across the nation.
Wow.
So moving forward into public infrastructure. Public infrastructure is where residents see and feel city government every day. As you recall, our public infrastructure is one section of the strategic plan, but is broken down into two unique parts: utility service delivery and public transportation. The first part of public infrastructure's goal is to be the leading publicly owned utility that supports a growing and progressive community. The first objective is to be a leader in utility service delivery. The city has achieved nearly 100% service availability with average restoration times of 37 minutes for electric service and 19 minutes for gas services. Also, the city has received more than 90% on its customer satisfaction ratings. This is important to note because according to the report from J.D. Power, national utility customer satisfaction is at its lowest all-time record, but we're continuing to stand out with a 90% customer satisfaction here in the city. And because of this reliability and responsiveness, the city consistently ranks among the top utilities in Florida when compared across investor-owned utilities, cooperatives, and municipal systems. In short, this is what modern publicly owned utilities look like: high reliability, fast restoration, and strong customer trust. That same forward-looking approach extends to environmental stewardship. This objective is to be a leader in environmental stewardship. Sustainability was a defining theme for the city's 2025 All-America City Award. That recognition focused on 3 initiatives: the Southside Action Plan, the Clean Energy Plan, and the city's more than 100 park system. Together, they reflect how sustainability is embedded in how we plan, invest, and serve our community. The next objective is focused on ensuring safe and clean drinking water for the community. Under this objective, the city invested $24 million in potable water system to support system reliability and long-term water quality. This investment reflects our commitment to modernizing critical infrastructure while building for the future. Infrastructure also shapes how people move to the city every day. And our goal is to be a city with an efficient public transit network supported by well-connected roads, sidewalks, transit amenities, and public transportation. Objective 4.4 focuses on enhancing the city's network of roads, bike lanes, and sidewalks. Under this objective, the city secured $9.6 million in grant funding dedicated specifically to pedestrian and street safety projects. This investment allows us to advance critical safety improvements while leveraging outside dollars to support long-term mobility goals. That connectivity includes access to public transit. Our last objective in public infrastructure is to ensure public transit is accessible, efficient, and equitable. The city secured nearly $13 million in federal and state funding to modernize our public transit system. And it's also important to note the Southside Transit Center will be open later this year, and this facility will improve access and service reliability to the south side of our community. And to kind of wrap everything up, public infrastructure, the approach for us is very consistent. We're modernizing everything that we have currently while building for the future. I'll go ahead and turn it back to my coworker, Thomas St. John, to go over public trust.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Commissioner Porter?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and congratulations to our team over at Fleet. I mean, that's really amazing what I was reading and preparing for this meeting. I have a few questions. So for the rate of on-time performance, according to the materials, so 72% of Star Metro's fleet operated on time. Do we know, like, how are we measuring on time? Like, you know, precisely, like if it's going to come at 10 o'clock, it comes at 10, or is it 10:02? How are we measuring that?
I was looking, I know we have some of our Star Metro folks that could give you the technical determination of the on-time performance there. We can get that answer for you right now.
Thank you.
Commissioner. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there's a buffer there, of course.
And I guess in addition, when we're measuring on time, are we measuring when a customer is picked up and when they are kind of dropped off at the next location? Like, not per person, but you know what I mean, sort of as we're hitting each stop.
Sure. Thank you. Great question, Commissioner. Good morning. So our on-time performance is measured. We have a system whereby
Could you introduce yourself?
Good morning, I'm sorry. Good morning, Commissioner. I'm Jared Lee with the City of Tallahassee Star Metro. Our on-time performance is measured by a system of time points. Each individual stop or a series of stops have a specific time point that we need to be there by. So what we do is within a few minutes before and or a few minutes after, we say we're on time for each individual time point.
Okay. And so, and part of the reason I ask is for the other, 18 or whatever percent, 20%, that are not on time, do we have any idea sort of like how far away from on time they are? Like, obviously there's a big difference from a bus being 10 minutes late versus an hour late. Do we have a sense of that?
Sure. It's literally within, if we're outside of that range by 1 minute, we're
Yeah.
not on time.
Yeah.
So if our range is 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after, if we're 6 minutes, we're not on time. Because what we want to do is we don't want to have citizens sitting at a bus stop trying to see where the bus is and they don't know where it is. So we're trying to make sure that we're on time. We're leveraging technology to improve our on-time performance with new applications that you'll see very soon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the question. I think also just to highlight what Matt was talking about, the Southside Transit Center, right, with your leadership, we obviously expect changes to the system that will make it more efficient, particularly given that it's in a portion of our community that more than a third of our riders originate from. A significant number of our riders originate from that portion of the community. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would add too, in all the years that I've been on the commission and in the area where I live, I've probably had 1 or 2 complaints about Star Metro not being on time for those who are frequent riders. So I think that we're doing a good job. Are we perfect? No, but I think we're doing a good job. Yeah. Okay.
All right, we're going to jump now to public trust priority, which our goal for this priority is to enhance public trust through ethical business practices and transparent governance. Ethical practices and transparency promotes accountability and helps to reinforce public confidence in how decisions are made and how resources are used. Our first objective is to infuse ethical practices into daily operations. When we infuse ethics into our daily operations, over time it has become a standard operating procedure here at the city. And that's best highlighted on this slide by the highest audited opinion on our annual comprehensive financial report, which is the highest grade achievable from a third-party audit. So to put that into perspective, as a city with over a $1.2 billion annual budget, we had a third-party auditor come in to look at our books and issue that unmodified opinion, again, the highest grade possible, which confirms the financial integrity and sound management practices of the city. This next slide encompasses the various ways we enhance citizens' access to city government, operations, and public meetings. When residents can easily access and participate in government, civic engagement is strengthened. This strategic plan is a good example of keeping the public informed. We update this every target and initiative in this plan semi-annually on our online performance dashboard. We also have an annual year in review that was mentioned earlier in the meeting. There's a digital copy on the website as well. All of those are documents to summarize the progress made towards these goals, as well as to highlight the successes and awards and recognitions throughout the year. I also want to mention the city's communications team as a dynamic digital presence on various media platforms with over 40 million digital impressions in 2025, which is just huge. So in summary, these various forms of communication and publications are all ways for citizens to stay engaged and up to date on the happenings of Tallahassee. So with that, I'll kick it over to Christella to go through quality of life.
Thank you, Thomas. Our next priority area is quality of life, with the goal to be a creative and inclusive community with beautiful public spaces that protect and promote resources and culture. Achieving this vision requires a sustained investment in shared spaces that residents use every day, which leads to our objective to maintain a safe, accessible, well-maintained network of parks, recreational facilities, greenways, and trails. These efforts are reinforced by the continued advancement in greenways and access to recreational outdoor spaces and securing funding to drive initiatives. But a central focus of this objective is serving older adults. With the Tallahassee Senior Center supporting nearly 5,000 participants each month through 180 programs that encourage active, independent, and social connected living. And to meet growing demand, construction has begun on a second fully equipped senior center anticipated for completion in 2026. Expanding senior facilities ensures the city can continue to serve a growing population with the high-quality programs and services. The next objective is to enhance livability and preserve the unique characteristics of neighborhoods. Beyond public amenities, quality of life is also shaped by the character and livability of where residents live. To enhance neighborhood pride, the city has completed 22 Southside beautification projects that improve public spaces, visual appeal, and community identity. Residents were also empowered to carry out citizen beautification projects, such as the Greater Bond Historic Marker Project, which honors and shares the rich history of neighborhoods, and the Botany Place Neighborhood Project that addressed an issue of illegal dumping. And these improvements foster a sense of ownership, encourage community use of shared spaces, and contribute to a more vibrant neighborhood. The last objective that lives under this priority area is to keep residents informed about events and attractions in Tallahassee. Finally, to ensure that residents can fully benefit from the assets and opportunities that the city provides, we prioritize keeping the residents informed. The city's production of creative content and leveraging strategic marketing and multimedia outreach to highlight cultural events has drawn more than thousands of residents and visitors to city-organized events like the T-Pain Block Party or the Longest Table, and city-supported festivals such as the Downtown Concert Series, Experience Asia, and the Chain of Park Arts Festival. Effective marketing amplifies community participation, supports local artists and culture and vendors, and drives economic activity through increased attendance. And additionally, these outreach efforts have increased visibility for attractions and strengthened partnerships with local schools and colleges. And through these initiatives, Tallahassee continues to foster inclusivity, accessibility, and cultural diversity. And I'm going to kick it over to Thomas to speak about our South Side Action Plan.
Thank you, Christella. So this will be our final slide before we get into our public safety update with our public safety partners. But I'd like to recap the strategic plan targets that are tied to the Southside Action Plan. By adopting Southside Action Plan targets into the strategic plan, it ensures the Southside initiatives are formally integrated into the city's performance dashboard, making progress and accountability towards those goals visible to our commissioners, our public, and our city workers. Many of these targets and initiatives were showcased on the previous slides, but I think it's important to see them all on one page to get an idea of the sizable impact and investments that are being made on the south side. One target I'd like to highlight in addition to that sizable impact and investment is the numerous citizen-led projects in the south side that Christella spoke about, the Greater Bond Historic Marker Project, the Botany Place Neighborhood Revitalization Project. These are projects that highlight the spirit of these neighborhoods and communities and the buy-in alongside that, the city's public investment and partnership in the South Side through the South Side Action Plan. So with that, we will kick it over to our public safety.
Yeah, right now. Yeah,
Before we
Mayor.
get to that, couple of questions, and I don't know where I probably should have asked these questions during the presentation, but one would be, and it might be under technology, is how are we infusing AI into the operations of the city, and how is that benefiting us?
familiar, we had an AI update at a previous commission meeting where AI was talked about in many different ways. It's infused in various departments. One that comes to mind for me is the growth management department that uses AI technology to improve their permitting and processing.
Okay.
We know that our police department also uses AI to help with record keeping and writing reports quicker. So virtually every department is using AI in some form or fashion to improve our efficiency.
Okay. And then I wanted to also emphasize what we have done with respect to neighborhood improvement on the south side, but in other predominantly African-American neighborhoods that we focused on through our Neighborhood First program. I don't think in the history of the city of Tallahassee has there been that kind of financial investment in those neighborhoods, and we're seeing improvement because those individuals who live in those neighborhoods are telling us what they want to see funded to improve their quality of life in those neighborhoods. And so I wanted to make sure that that everyone knew that we are making that kind of investment in those neighborhoods and improving the quality of life. So, Mr.
Thank
Whitley.
you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We've got the fire chief here with his deputy chiefs, and I'm just going to let him talk. Y'all want to hear from him anyway, and he's got really good information to share.
Thank you, Dr. Whitley. Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. Let me begin by thanking you all for your continued support and the confidence that you have placed in me as your fire chief. I take pride in the trust that you've put in me. I have the unique privilege of leading, and you've heard me say this 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 more, that I have the unique privilege of leading a group of dynamic men and women who are fully committed to serving and protecting this community. And I am honored to be able to stand by them day in and day out in those efforts. I'm also pleased to report that the morale in the department is strong, and together we're focused on providing top-tier service to the residents. And once again, we thank you all for your continued support. A couple of accomplishments I would like to bring to light that are not on our PowerPoint. Brian Bradshaw, who is our emergency management director, could not be here today. He had a few targets in the strategic plan, and I'm pleased to say today that he met and exceeded his targets. Brian was able to work with technology and innovation to integrate and upgrade technology in the Emergency Operations Center, which provides more coordination and effectiveness during activations. He collaborated with Human Resources, and they were successful in integrating supplemental staffing into our PeopleSoft program, and this ensures that we have adequate staffing, resource availability to fill critical roles during emergency activations. And where that is important is as employees have an assignment in the Emergency Operations Center during disaster, if they move into a different position, they get promoted, they resign, they leave the government, that could leave a hole in our operation, emergency operations. So that integration into PeopleSoft allows us to make sure that it's a seamless transition, that we don't have any gaps that fall off during the transition. Brian was able to facilitate 637 training hours across the entire city, and the target was 600. Brian has exceeded those targets, as I said earlier, and he is on target to exceed those targets again this year. Now we're moving to our first slide. As you can see, there was a decrease in fires. We're excited about this target because it's hard to predict human negligence, human mistakes, things that could happen that drive the increase in fires. And we embraced this target, and as you can see, we were successful. There was an 8% reduction in total suppression calls and a 5% reduction in working structure fires.
Mr. Mayor, Pro Tem.
Mr. Porter.
Thank you. To what do you attribute that decrease?
So there's a number of things. I think our proactive community engagement, our proactive public education, We're proactive with our fire inspections. So we do believe that if you educate the community, if people know better, they do better. And we do feel that that is a driving factor in this reduction.
And is that something that the city and your department revamped over the past year or has expanded upon, or is that a reduction that we've seen over time and our engagement efforts have sort of continued and continued to see success? Or is that sort of something targeted that you've been working on?
So we're very intentional in what we do. When I was appointed to this position, one of the things that we identified was we needed to increase our public education and public engagement. And I think through our efforts, I think through the action of this board by approving us getting those 26 positions, we were able to add an additional inspector to our fire prevention division. So those efforts, we believe, all together are working towards those reductions.
Thank you.
Can move on to the ISO. So our initial target for ISO was to pursue a ISO 2. We currently have a ISO 3. We were going to pursue an ISO 2, which is, with our response area, we currently respond over 702 square miles. Due to your action to not renew the interlocal agreement, to provide fire services in the unincorporated area, our response area reduces to 103 square miles. And looking at the reduced response area, which should reduce our response times, we started evaluating, is it a possibility that we could pursue a ISO 1, which is the highest rating. That's the gold standard. That is the standard that fire departments and governments across the country pursue. And we feel that that goal is attainable. We've already started working towards it. Your action to approve those 26 positions positions us to start moving in that direction. However, I don't want to overshadow that our request for the 26 positions was for the safety and welfare of our employees to be able to provide this top-tier service. The benefit would also be a better ISO rating. As we said, the additional positions are an incremental approach to meeting those National Fire Protection Association recommendations for single-family dwellings, apartment buildings, and commercial structures. With the addition of those 26 positions, we feel that we will meet, well, we know we will meet 90% on our single-family dwelling. Once we respond in the city area only, we will exceed those recommendations, and we will become very close to the recommendations for an apartment building. We have plans for the 45 additional employees that we have in the county area that will be integrated into our city operation, which will also aid in our ability to meet that ISO 1 designation. So the benefits of ISO, it's a potential for a reduction in insurance premiums. It meets the city's mission of being a national leader in the delivery of public service. We tout ourselves as being the best. I'm unapologetic about the actions of the men and women of the Tallahassee Fire Department. We are a top-tier agency, and this ISO 1 designation is attainable, and we feel that we can meet it. Again, I can't overshadow our approach is for the safety and welfare of our employees while we deliver service. We have to protect our most precious asset, and that's our employees. So I have the two deputies who are here with me today to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Okay. Chief, thank you and your staff for the tremendous job that you do in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem, while they're switching places, Chief Rebel will be coming up And he'll be sharing some information, as the manager said, on some reductions that we're seeing in the crime numbers. Really good news there, as well as some information that y'all have requested on the use of cameras. You probably saw, I'm not going to steal his thunder, you probably saw a press release go out that he will probably talk about that highlights what, exactly the good work they're doing, the investment that you as a commission have made in public safety and the police department, increasing wages, increasing personnel, and investing in technologies. With that, I'll turn it over to the chief.
Thank you, Thomas. Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, thank you very much. Wait for the... So we're super excited we'll get the PowerPoint going here in just a second, to start our 200th year. Started that this year and really excited about that. We are strategically positioned to continue to lead law enforcement, not only here in our community, but nationally and internationally. And you'll see that as we go through some of these slides, hopefully. There we go. All right, so we have 530 allocated positions. You know that you've given us the additional positions, so we're up to 414 sworn positions. We've been able to fill 397 of those, so we've actually had a 15-person increase on the streets, which has been huge. We'll continue to work on those vacancies. Our applications continue to rise. Our applications to be law enforcement officers are up 30%, which is huge. And of that, we, in 2024, hired 39 sworn officers, and in 2025, 58 sworn officers. So we continue to make great progress in our recruiting and our retention. We are losing officers to retirement, but we have very few officers that leave for any other reason. So we're keeping up with the attrition as well as making gains in that. We have currently 18 recruits in the academy and 26 recruits that are in-house, so they're a little further along. So 44 of those will be hitting the streets within the next 6 months to 10 months. So we're excited about those that are joining the department and how we're increasing that. We, again, thank you for your investment in the department. It is making a tremendous difference. That clearly goes with this next slide, which you can see that our violent crime continues to go down. Our violent crime is down nearly 9% in 2025. Our homicide unit, it just continues to really be an amazing unit in their clearance rates. For, again, 2024, another 100% clearance rate in our homicides. And in 2025, we're at 85.7%. Again, the national average for homicide clearance rates is 55%. So we're clearly 30 to 40% above that rate, and we continue to do that year after year after year, which has been recognized both nationally and internationally. We have almost 11% decrease in property crime and a 68% decrease in traffic-related fatalities, which is huge. And that is all directly related to strategic plans and innovations, the technology that you've invested in through the department. All of that comes into play when we talk about reducing these crime percentages. So thank you for your investment. We continue to implement that investments through personnel, through training, and through technology to make sure that these crimes continue to decrease and our community continues to be a safer place to live. Our Violence Crime Task Force continues to do an amazing job with the U.S. Marshals and the State Attorney's Office. You can see the numbers there for the number of arrests that they continue to make. And taking our most violent offenders off the street has a direct impact in violent crime and why our violent crime is going down. As you asked for, and we wanted to make sure we came back with the information related to our public safety cameras, our license plate readers, and our public-private partnerships. We take a three-tiered approach to the implementation of these public safety cameras and how it relates to criminal activity. We do public safety cameras, license plate readers, which I'll refer to as LPRs, and the existing cameras that are already in our community. So they are all three of these are a critical component of how we keep our communities safe. These cameras help with crime detection, situational awareness, rapid incident resolution, which I'll talk about a case here towards the end of this, which was just an amazing case which just happened in our community, evidence collection, and emergency management during national disasters. Our public safety cameras originated in the Bond community, and that was at the behest of that community. We met with them many, many times, talked about locations and where they need to be, what was going on, but they provide us tremendous insight into criminal predicate, which is happening in communities. And those communities have asked for those public safety cameras. We currently have 126 public safety cameras dispersed in neighborhoods throughout all of Tallahassee. That includes Bond, Griffin Heights, and Frenchtown, Providence, Tuskegee, FAMU, Cascades, Downtown, just to name a few of those communities. And all of those cameras are placed in public spaces where there's no perception or expectation of privacy. Just want to make sure that that's emphasized. When we move to our license plate reader technology, or LPR, that technology enhances our ability to prevent and solve crimes within this community. The crime detection and investigation, faster response times for our officers. It's a force multiplier for us. It again helps with evidence support and officer safety. When you look at how these license plate readers allow us the ability to look for particular license plates in response to a criminal predicate. And I think it's very important that we emphasize that each and every time. It's in response to a criminal predicate. They allow us the proliferation of information across jurisdictions, and we share that information with other law enforcement agencies across the country, and reciprocally they share their information with us. We have, just back up a little bit, just to tell you some of the successes that we've had with our LPR system. In 38 different investigations, they've been used in 18 homicide investigations, 26 robbery investigations, 36 shooting investigations, 7 missing person investigations, 35 burglary investigations, and they've helped in the recovery of over 250 stolen vehicles within our community. So you can see the direct impact. And when I say that they've been used in investigation, that not only did somebody look up something, but they've been integral in the solving of those cases and how we move forward with that information. So just a breakdown, because I know this is some of the information that you all were looking for. We both have mobile and fixed LPRs. With Axon, which is one of the companies we use, we have 250 cameras online. There's 31 million total reads over the last 3 years. It just gives you the idea of the volume that comes in with those. For our fixed LPRs, we have 63 flock cameras online. And with Vigilant, is the other company we use, we have 62 cameras online. So just as an example of how this comes into play, just over the last 2 days, there has been a pretty much a 5-state crime spree of Family Dollars, where these burglars would go in and cut the power and then come back later after the police respond and check out the alarm and leave. They would come back and break into these Family Dollars, and this has been happening all over. So there was an LPR hit out of Escambia County. The sheriff's department over there called us, let us know that that they had those type of burglaries. They were probably in our area. We got an LPR hit with that vehicle in Tallahassee. Our Criminal Investigation Bureau immediately responded with the sheriff's department, with our helicopter, and got out there and set up in the area. Within a matter of hours, we identified that vehicle. Sure enough, they went to a Family Dollar, cut the power, then moved to another one on Tharp Street where they had already cut the power and gone back to. Air One was following them the whole time. They were hitting on our LPRs, and we were able to track them through that. Caught them at the Tharp Street Family Dollar and arrested all 4 of the people from, and all of them are from Texas. So cleared up a huge crime spree just because, and all of that instigated this time was by an LPR hit. Again, they're started in Escambia County, but hit our LPRs here in Tallahassee as well to let us know that they were in fact in town. Just one of the many huge success stories that we have with LPRs and the technology that you've invested in each and every day. Our public-private camera partnership is in full swing. This allows us to tap into the cameras that are already all over our community. And this is completely voluntary. So that's the point to remember with this. It expands our ability to cover area at no cost to the city. It encourages community collaboration. It again leads to faster investigations. It is privacy-oriented in that the owners of these businesses or homeowners choose when and where they want to share the information, if they want to share it at all. There's two different ways they can do that. They can do that by just giving us the information when something happens in their area, or they can sign up and actually get a box that goes in their business that records or that saves all of that data, and then we can pull from that later. That's through our Fusus Core connection. So overall, these technologies improve public safety. They increase our crime occurrence rates. They enhance officer safety and community safety. They promote efficiency, transparency, and certainly are part of modern policing. And they strengthen the trust and collaboration between TPD and our community. So we are leveraging these technologies. They have been a huge success and a force multiplier for us. I know you have questions, so I'll pause here.
Commissioner Porter.
Thank you. I actually just have a quick question. For the public-private camera partnerships, what does it look like if, say, you are a tenant, you're renting and someone owns the property and they have a camera and have entered into this partnership, but is there any obligation? Do we do any vetting to see if the tenant is aware of this? There's a situation where you might have, obviously, the homeowner who maybe
Right.
has signed up for this, but a tenant living there who doesn't know that maybe their footage is being shared. Is that a possibility?
We share all the locations where we have partnerships. Jason, you.
Right, but a tenant wouldn't know to look for that.
They may or may not. I don't know if the apartments would share that with them or not. I don't know if they have to post anything. That's why I was calling Jason.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So,
Could you introduce yourself
I'm sorry.
for the record?
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Jason Lowe. So, the way that would work is any of the private homeowners ones, they would submit, so it would have to be whoever owns the camera that does it. We're only interested in outward-facing cameras, not any internal-facing cameras. So whoever owns the property would share that information with us, and all it is letting us know that there's cameras that are existing there. Those aren't ones that are monitored or whatever. They just share their locations. And so if we have a criminal predicate in that area, we would send out a geofence and said, if you caught anything on those cameras, please share it with us.
But would as someone living in an apartment, would they know that their apartment complex is part of this program?
I don't believe so, because that would be a tenant, that would be a
Okay.
property owner-tenant
Okay,
relationship.
thank
I didn't know the answer either.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let me ask real quick, those in the back, can you all hear what, that's what I thought. You're going to have to speak a little closer to the microphone.
I'm sorry, sir. So in answer to that question, that would, I believe that would be a property owner-tenant relationship there, because what we would do is whoever owns those cameras, they're the ones that reach out and create that relationship with us.
Thank you.
Okay. Other question, Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. A quick question. First off, great presentation, great job. I think the success is apparent based on the implementation. And I've supported the camera program over the years. The concern we raised at, I think, our last meeting was the flock cameras specifically. And, we have a duty to balance public safety with kind of personal privacy. And there's a lot of concern with this particular company, because while we have great policies at Tallahassee Police Department that require a criminal predicate, this company puts this footage or information into a private data network that we don't really have access or control over how it's used after it goes into that system. Since our last meeting, there's been a lot of releases even on this company's cameras where they haven't had any security access at all, where people have been able to tap into the footage directly into cameras that are owned by Flock. Some of them recording playgrounds with young children playing with no security at all. Private criminals could access that information. So my question is, and the request of the agenda item is just a thorough vetting of the safety of, one, our own data, as well as the operational security of the data that's being recorded. Can you speak to that now, or is that?
Sure. I mean, the securities that are in place, again, like you spoke of, for the Tallahassee Police Department and for the vast majority of agencies that use this across the country, are there are CJIS, NCIC, FCIC, training and credentialing that has to go into place before you can actually access this information. So those safeguards are in place. Where they store that information, and they did have a leak. I'm not familiar with the specific cases that you're talking about, but I know there was a case in
Georgia. You might have saw it in
yeah.
the news. Echoes County, a secretary that worked for their sheriff's office, and just from public information that I read, basically they had a breach. She went into the system, used unlawfully on the 18th. On the 5th, she was arrested based on the security and protocols that they had in place. And they're continuing with their investigation. So there are protocols of why you have to enter the system, you have to have a reason, and you have to document all that. And so the check proved that she did it unlawfully.
There are safeguards, there are audits in place to go through. You know, somebody certainly could hack the system. It's happened. Any of these systems or any of our other systems, it's possible that they're hacked. But there are safeguards in place to prevent that from happening. When it does happen, that is followed up on, and those people are arrested, and charged accordingly.
I appreciate that. So, and I'll share with you the information that
Sure.
I'm referring to.
Yeah.
And it's not hacking the system. It's some of their cameras in some areas had public access. If you were near the device, you could publicly access it with a computer with no password protection at all.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that, but
And
certainly.
I'll send that to you. And those are the types of things I'm concerned about,
Sure.
Whether they're happening here. And then I appreciate the other law enforcement agencies that have access and have their own processes. My concern is that data, does Flock maintain that data will only be accessible to law enforcement agencies, or do they have then the right to sell it to private industries or any type of private use?
Yes. So, pardon me. No, sir. It is only available. So we own our reads and we control the shares as it goes through. So they cannot take our data and then sell it to non-law enforcement agencies as it goes through. It's a sharing network. That's what, in the case that we presented, how they shared those LPR reads with us from Escambia County, and we use that as a criminal predicate then to track it within our area.
Okay, thank you. And I'll share that information with you to
Yeah.
check and see if
Yeah,
we
we
fall
will.
under those type of access.
Yeah, we'll certainly check into it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Thank you. Chief Rebel, great news in violent crime coming down. Great news in the number of personnel we're able to continue to bring, thanks to our community who have allowed us the opportunity to be able to fund those things, because, budget drives everything that we do. If you don't have the money to do it, you can't do it. But I want to know best practices. Do we still have enough officers for a city our size?
Officers that's a tricky question. We are on the right road. Our officers do a great job. This is a safe city, and our officers do, the current number of officers we have do a great job in keeping our city safe. The benefit of the additional officers that we're talking about are all the other programs that we want to run. Like I truly believe, and have said since I've been here, that I want officers in our elementary schools. I think it's critical to have officers in our elementary school, like DARE, like we used to have back in the day. I currently, don't have enough officers to pull officers off the street or through investigations to fill those type of specialty units. So the more officers we get allow us to do those other things, which enhances those relationships with our community, builds them from a very early age, and then bolsters and enhances the units on the street. And like I've said from the beginning, the real true benefit of having more officers is the reduction in time that the officers spend going from call to call. Right now, our officers spend about 85% of their time going from call to call. So they are keeping our city safe. They're doing a fabulous job doing that. But national averages and statistics, FBI statistics will show you that in order to do community policing correctly, your officers should be spending about 45% of their time going from call to call. The only way to do that is to have more officers, because our call volume is not going to decrease. Our call volume is going to continue to increase, so those officers are going to continue to go from call to call. And as you can imagine, if they're spending 85% of their time going from call to call, 15% of that time is all that's left to write the reports, to do everything. So there's not a lot of time for the community policing that we really want every single officer to be doing. And so if you take that 85%, at that 85 percentile, drop it down to about 45%, then the officers have that time to really invest in the communities and spend time in those areas. And so with the addition of the officers that you've given us, with the addition of the technology, which is that force multiplier, all of those things go together to continue to make us a safer community. But our community is very safe currently as we speak.
Thank you, and I wholeheartedly agree that we are a safe community, and your officers are doing a tremendous job. But I wanted to just highlight that point that while improvements have been made, there's still room for more. And as we continue to grow as a city, we've got to keep pace. Just it's the same with fire. We're identifying what we need to do for fire stations and how to provide coverage.
Right.
We've got to also make sure that the full public safety piece is there, because that is our #1 priority. Public safety, to make sure that everyone feels safe in our community. And I want to just say that this past weekend, the world came to Tallahassee, and they were out at Appalachia Regional Park for the cross-country championship. But when they weren't there, they were in our city, at our hotels, restaurants, and what have you. And they were being bussed around, and every bus had a Florida Highway Patrolman following them.
Right.
And so I know that you all were in the city as well to make sure that they were safe. And so I'm not aware of any incidents that occurred to those who came to see the event and experience it, or those who came to participate. They came through our airport very, very, very well. And just a very proud moment for the city of Tallahassee to have the world come to Tallahassee.
Right.
Now, rumor has it that they may be back.
Permanently.
So, I wasn't going to say that, but they may be back. And this experience this weekend will help them make that kind of decision. My second point is real crime time center. Can you speak a little bit to how that's working, and the benefit of us being a part of that, and other law enforcement in the city?
The real-time crime center is that change in law enforcement that I talked about, how it's going to change how we do law enforcement. It certainly has. It's proven to be incredibly effective. All of these technologies that we talk about, all of those pour into the real-time crime center. We've been able to include other technologies like Peregrine and others, which allow us to take all of that data that's coming into the real-time crime center and search it in ways that again, are just really really changes how we do things. The ability for the officers to search that data, to search it quickly, to narrow down searches for cars or people or whatever, is, again, a force multiplier for us that is really hard to quantify. But the officers love it. The technology that's being used, as I spoke of, is solving crimes every single day. And again, just making our community safer.
And my final point is unlock cars with weapons in them. I'll look over here at Deputy Chief Holmes, because he's our model, our poster, I should say.
Poster child, you can say it.
Well, not necessarily the poster child, but he is definitely the spokesperson in the community for making sure that folks remember to keep their cars locked or protect their weapons inside. Have we seen any movement in that being effective in our community? I know we partner with the Urban League and others to make that happen. So where are we with that?
Yeah, the numbers have gone down a little bit, but it is still clearly the leading source of guns in our community. The leading source of guns getting into the hands of people that shouldn't have them by far still comes from unlocked vehicles. And the percentages, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, DC Homes, but I still think it's in the 90 percentile of total guns stolen or stolen out of unlocked vehicles.
So for those who are watching, please take your weapon inside or lock your cars.
Correct.
So that we don't have that happen in our community.
Absolutely.
And if you're able to get enough officers to go into the school system, into the elementary school, this would be an early point of being able to educate them that if mom and dad is not locking the car, they need to remind them, lock your car, because if they know that there's a weapon there. Thank you for the great work that all of our public safety is doing in our city.
Thank you. I
We
do want to
appreciate it.
clarify, I do have a couple more slides I just want to hit on real quick. I just wanted to pause for questions for the LPRs, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to just touch on a couple more, because it highlights the great
I was going to
things,
ask about that.
yeah,
so
that
I'm
our
glad. Okay.
officers are doing, yeah.
Sure.
So you want me to continue with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead, Chief.
Oh, perfect, thank you. So, our community relations unit just does a phenomenal job. You can see there's 697 community events they did last year. They are out every single day, multiple times a day, obviously. And these are just a few of the type of things that they do and that we do as an agency each and every day to build those relationships within our community.
I hear the snow cones are highly sought.
They are a valued commodity, for sure.
And Chief, you also have, I didn't see it listed there, your youth and adult
Citizen advisory
Citizen
councils.
advisory
Yes, sir.
committees.
Yeah, both
Yes.
of those councils are still going very strong and provide us a great liaison between myself and my office and our community. I'll brag on them a little bit. Our youth advisory council, they are in the community all the time and just doing a tremendous job of supporting and touting the Tallahassee Police Department to their peers, and they are just doing really, I can't speak highly enough of them and the job that they're doing, standing up at such a young age.
Sure. Yeah,
really
I didn't
impressive.
want you to miss
Thank
giving
you
them
for
a
that.
shout out.
Thank you, I appreciate it. On accreditation, we are super excited to continue. This year, we'll receive in March, we'll receive another CALIA accreditation with meritorious notification and excellence awards. That happens when you've been 15 years or more continuously. And TPD, as we say all the time, is the longest continually accredited, and we're at 39 years right now of continual accreditation through CALIA. And that meritorious and excellence award just speaks to the level of best practices that they come in and recognize every time they audit us, that TPD is truly a leader in the entire nation in how we do business and how we carry it out. CFA, which is the state version of that, again, they just did their audit of us. Their recommendation is that we will be reaccredited with Excelsior recognition. And again, that's for 5 years or more of reaccreditation without any conditions. And that's the important part of that, is a lot of times people will get reaccredited, but there's conditions on it. You need to improve that. You need to check on this. You need to make sure this policy matches this practice. And you have to have, for Excelsior, you have to have 5 years or more where you are reaccredited without any of those conditions. So we're super excited about that. The accreditation team just continues to do an amazing job. And again, it speaks to the quality of law enforcement at the Tallahassee Police Department. Our award winners, we just like highlighting this all the time because I say it all around town and I talk about it all the time, how many state, local, national, and international awards the people from the Tallahassee Police Department win each and every year. It is truly amazing the quality of people that we have working at the Tallahassee Police Department. The men and women that work there are truly, I say it all the time, they're truly the best in the nation at what they do. You see some of theirs from Noble Awards, Crime Practitioner, Public Safety, Hall of Fame type awards throughout the state and local area. Our MAD, our people that work with MAD, again, they continue to recognize the Tallahassee Police Department as a leader every single year. VFW, TCC, our SWAT team, our competition team, again, wins first place at competitions throughout the state and other areas, individual competitions, and then they also won third place again this year in the international competition. So with over 60 teams competing from all over the world, our team finished third overall, which is an amazing accomplishment. Truly is, for 2 years in a row. So as we continue to grow and evolve, we look forward to the bright future of a new generation of leaders, continued resilient relationships with our community and city leaders, and a constant emphasis on the priority of public safety. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Great presentation. Any other questions? Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you. And just while I have you here, there's some legislation across the street that I find to be somewhat inflammatory. Is downtown Tallahassee safe?
Downtown Tallahassee is safe. Downtown Tallahassee is very safe. We deal with issues in a downtown area like every city does, especially a mid-sized to larger city. So, we deal with those issues, but downtown Tallahassee is very safe.
Okay. And has the City Commission given you the resources you need to address any crime that happens in downtown Tallahassee?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the resources we need, and we'll continue to grow and evolve in those areas and work with our community partners. But downtown, like every area of our city, it's a very safe city to live in.
All right. Thank you, Chief. We appreciate you, and we appreciate your officers.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Any other questions, comments? Chief, I want to personally thank you for the leadership that you have provided at TPD, your leadership team, and what we've been able to accomplish. I think this community certainly, through our leadership and recommendation, made a wise investment financially in much of what you talked about here this morning, the technology, the increase in the number of personnel in the department. Without that, we couldn't be where we are
Absolutely.
today. And so we want to thank you all for the work that you do. We've still got work to do.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the cameras in Bond. What I'd point out is that after we did put those cameras in that community, they saw a 30% reduction.
Yes, they did.
In crime in the Bond community, and so they were very pleased with that. And I can tell you, in my neighborhood, when we were asked if we were interested in the cameras, I took that issue to my neighbors, and without question, it was, yeah, that's what we want. And we've seen the results of that throughout our community. And so again, we just thank you and your staff and the officers of the Tallahassee Police Department for the work that you do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you all.
All right, Mr. City Manager, we are a little ahead of schedule.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. As I mentioned earlier, Casey Cook will join us. I think he's en route, but
Okay.
but we're able to keep moving.
Casey's
Okay.
here.
Is he here?
to the
Look
table.
here.
He's en route to the
He
table.
was.
Come on,
he
join
was,
us, Casey.
Right on time. Thank you, Casey, for being here. Casey Cook is wears many hats, but among other things, the legislative director for the League of Cities, doing a lot of good work. We know our legislators are here. They've been here in the latter part of the year, and session is underway. And I think it's a perfectly timed update to talk about the discussions related to property tax. There's a long history of the use of property tax in the state of Florida to provide for local services. There have been updates to that, and there's a lot of discussion underway, and we're very pleased and thankful that Casey's able to take some time out of his very busy schedule right now to provide an update. And so, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Casey, if you're ready, I'll turn it over to you.
Casey, welcome.
You just
Thank
turned
you
it off.
Thank you for joining us this morning and giving us this update. This is, Commissioner Williams-Cox and I both attended the legislative conference, and of course, all of us understand the significance of what's about to happen in the legislature. And so this update is very timely, and whatever we can do to assist the League of Cities and our sister cities from across the state, we're willing to do that. So with that, we'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Commission. It's good to see you. Happy day 2 of the legislative session. And Mayor Pro Tem, you understand this from your time in the legislature. It is fast and furious right now across the street. This first month of session, everything is alive, right? There are 1,773 bills that have been filed. Wow. What's interesting this time of year, these early sessions, is typically there's a backlog in bill drafting. And so at some point, the dam breaks and all of these bills flow out. And I think this year, the dam broke the week after Christmas. So literally 1 week before session, last Tuesday I checked, 1,152 bills had been filed. Fast forward to today, the total number of bills filed, 1,774. So that's more than a third of the bills that the legislature will be considering have been filed in the last week. So we've spent a lot of our time and time over the weekend reading as many bills as we could so that we could see and identify those bills impacting cities. Cities are, and local governments really are, I think, a popular topic in the legislature. Cities provide such a variety of services that there are more than 500 bills this year impacting cities in some way, shape, or form. There's also, and I know I came here to talk about property taxes, but I just wanted to give a little bit of perspective to the group. So as the League of Cities, our team will be following about 500 bills. We're really trying to identify and separate the contenders from the pretenders. And part of this first month is really identifying which bills are viable, which bills are not. Because if everything's important, nothing's important. And so for us, we want to spend our time and energy on the bills that are in play. Some bills are filed that are just statement bills, right? They may not even get one committee hearing. For us, we're trying to be as efficient with our time as we can be because there are so many bills out there to make a difference on as many bills as possible. This year's been a little bit different because with the extended session that we had last year, and then the early starting session in January, that meant committee week started, I think, late September. And so for us, it almost feels like session has just continued from last year. And there wasn't really that break that you enjoy once the hecticness of session ends. So for us, our work really started this summer. This has been a popular talking point that we've heard from the governor, from other elected officials about property taxes and do you truly own your home so long as you still have to pay the government rent? Well, I don't know that that's necessarily the right way to look at it. I know that if I go and buy a cell phone from Verizon and I pay for that cell phone over 36 months, month 37, I still get a bill from Verizon for cell phone service. And I think that local government and the services that we offer are no different. Property taxes are no different. You are paying for a service that you're receiving from the city of Tallahassee. As an aside, I had an opportunity to go through the agenda item, and Mr. Goad, I want to compliment you and your team. This is I've had the opportunity to read thousands of staff analyses, agenda items, et cetera, and this is one of the most comprehensive analyses I've ever seen in my life. And I think when I was trying to put together what I was going to say today, everything that I was going to say is in this report. And so if you haven't had a chance to look at it, and this is also for the audience, I'd encourage you to review the agenda item associated with this talk today. So going backwards to the start of last summer, property taxes were a very popular topic. The Speaker of the House, in response to some comments made by the governor expressing an interest in property tax reform, formed the House Select Committee on Property Taxes. They had a series of meetings. Local governments were invited to speak. The League of Cities and some of our members were able to present to that panel. They heard a presentation from the state's economist, Amy Baker, and then also from Dr. Jim Zingali as well. So the legislators spent the first part of their summer meetings learning as much as they could about property taxes in general. They also learned about the impacts to how cities and counties use property tax revenues. At the end of those select committee meetings, the Speaker of the House rolled out a memo with 7 different proposals that he wanted the House of Representatives to consider. They were really across the spectrum, but I'll group them into buckets. The first was the complete elimination of homestead property taxes, non-school homestead property taxes. The second were in the exemptions category. Let me back up. There was also a proposal that would eliminate non-school homestead property taxes for those 65 and older. So you had 3 proposals in the bucket. One's eliminate it tomorrow, one's a phased out elimination of property taxes, and then one was a smaller subset, which was eliminating non-school homestead property taxes for those over 65. The second bucket were the exemptions bucket, right? We have $50,000 in homestead exemptions currently on the books. One proposal, and this is a proposal that's eligible for the House floor because it's already passed through its 3 committees of reference, was filed by Representative Busada. That's HJR 209. Typically, we refer to him as HB, but this is a joint resolution. That's the terminology the legislature uses for proposed constitutional amendments. This HJR 209 would effectively create a super homestead exemption of $200,000 for those folks that have home insurance on their house or multi-peril insurance on their homestead property. So, and I think that this was in response to many folks looking at their insurance bills when they received them and seeing the drastic increases that we've seen in property insurance rates over the last 4 or 5 years. So Representative Busada's bill was filed. It was heard first in the House Select Committee on Property Taxes. The second committee of reference was State Affairs, passed there. Final committee, the Ways and Means Committee, it's passed. It is eligible for the House floor. Could be heard any day when they set their agenda or special order calendar. That bill is eligible for passage out of the House. The other exemption bill was out there, would have essentially created an additional 25% homestead exemption in it, plus Save Our Homes, plus the $50,000 exemption currently on the books. So that would obviously have a pretty significant impact on local government revenues as well and how we pay for the essential services that we provide. And so the House has taken a very frenetic pace, or they've been very fast-paced in moving this stuff forward, getting it ready for the House floor. Currently, there's one bill that is ready for the House floor, but there are some others that have at least moved through a committee. There's one that's up tomorrow. This is HJR 203. This is a bill by Representative Kevin Steele, and essentially, instead of eliminating homestead property taxes tomorrow, it phases it out over 10 years. And it does that by granting essentially an additional $100,000 exemption every year for the next 10 years. If you still have anything left of your homestead tax roll at that point, it's all wiped away at the end of year 10. That bill is up in its second committee of reference tomorrow, the House State Affairs Committee. So that's an important thing to be watching. Telling you all this to describe how fast the House has moved here. The Senate, on the other hand, has taken a much different approach. If you had the opportunity yesterday to watch the opening day speeches from the Senate President, from the Speaker of the House, and from the Governor, one thing that President Albritton, Ben Albritton from down in Hardee County, Wauchula, he had 2 quotes that really stood out to me. The first was, "Don't tear down a fence before you know why it was put up." And the second was, "Measure 3 times, cut once." So I think that describes the Senate's view of this whole property tax discussion. We want to look at all of the data. We want to understand the real-world impacts before we push out any proposals, before we vote on any proposals. Now, there have been some property tax bills filed in the Senate. I don't know, though, that those are the proposals that are backed by Senate leadership. I think instead the Senate is taking time to review all the information, figure out what's going to happen. I don't even know if there will be additional property tax bills filed this session. It could happen in the form of a proposed committee bill, but the Senate President and the Governor have both alluded to a potential special session in the future on property taxes. We already have one. This is good for Tallahassee's economy, the third week in April coming up, that's going to be focused on congressional redistricting, but they've been teasing a potential special session on property taxes. The governor can call that on his own. The other way you could have a special session is if the presiding officers agree on an issue and the scope of the issue. You can have a special session that way. If the governor calls a special session, it doesn't necessarily have to be with the buy-in of the Speaker and the Senate President, but the legislature is obligated to come to Tallahassee. So if I had to describe property taxes right now and what's going on at the Capitol, I'd say that there's more unknowns than knowns. The governor has certainly spoken quite a bit about property taxes and how he sees a need for major property tax reform, but I have yet to see a plan released or a proposal released from his office, and I know that legislative leadership is asking for a plan as well, or the governor's thoughts on how this would work. The other interesting things I think about the proposals on the books is typically when a proposed constitutional amendment is filed, there's an implementing bill that runs a parallel track. The implementing bill gets down in the weeds, explains the details. How is this thing actually going to work should the 60% of the voters approve it? These are unique in that there are no implementing bills attached to these House proposals I've described. Instead, I think the House is looking at this like, let's see if voters approve this. If they do, we will come back, session's right around the corner from next November. We will come back and we will actually work on that implementing bill, and we'll figure out the details after we know whether this thing has passed or not. That's a little bit scary for us, for sure, because this is obviously a major revenue source for cities. This is how we fund the essential services we provide. Again, in your staff analysis or the agenda item associated with it, the city of Tallahassee, I think, is typical of many cities where this money flows directly to public safety. And that's one of the challenges with no implementing bill or no conversations about how this revenue loss is offset. The cities will have to face some really tough decisions should a proposal go on the ballot and pass. Everyone loves a tax cut. Nobody likes paying taxes, but one person's tax cut a lot of time is another person's tax increase. In your staff analysis, you note that should homestead property tax revenues go away, so that there is not a drop in service levels or major service cuts, you'll have to raise your millage rate. Well, if homestead properties have been removed from the rolls, that is going to be your non-homestead properties, your business owners. Commissioner Matlow, I see you, you're a business owner that I know. That burden will be shifted from the entire community to a smaller group, right? Your non-homestead properties, your businesses. I don't think that's good for the local economy. Frankly, when I travel around the state, when I'm talking with city officials, when I'm sitting in city commission meetings, the issues that are constantly brought up by the public are insurance and the rising insurance rates in the state of Florida. I have yet to hear from somebody complaining about property taxes in a commission budget hearing. And generally, if the room is empty, I take that as a good thing, because that means that the residents are very satisfied with the services they're receiving for the $88 a month that they pay in the city of Tallahassee to receive all of the great things that the city provides. So it's going to be a wild and crazy year, but I want to just also briefly touch on some of the other stuff that's out there, because it is also impacted by this potential loss in property tax revenue. One of the arguments that we're making to legislators is that they need to zoom out and look at the big picture and look at how all of these other policy bills will impact cities as a whole. If you think about cities, and City of Tallahassee is very fortunate to own utilities, well-run utilities, but the average city in the state relies on 4 general revenue sources. The first is ad valorem or property taxes.
The second is the communication services tax, which has been a declining revenue source, and the rate's been frozen, I think, until 2031. The third is the local business tax. It used to be referred to as business tax receipts. And the fourth is the municipal utility tax. So we've talked about this property tax conversation, but there's a proposal out there that's moved that would eliminate the local business tax. So now you're talking about severely cutting, or let's just say cutting in half our primary general revenue source, property taxes, but then completely sawing off the leg of the stool for local business taxes. At the very same time, there are proposals that increase our expenses in running city government. There's a bill, and I talked about this last year. It's a zombie bill. They keep coming back year over year after they die the year before. This bill deals with sovereign immunity caps, and it raises the sovereign immunity caps. The House proposal has some fairly significant cap raises. It goes from $200,000 per person, $300,000 per incident, to $600,000 per person and $1.2 million per incident. What do you think that's going to do to your insurance rates? Your liability's increased, and so your insurance is going to go up. There are a number of bills that I'll classify them as mandates. Sometimes it's mandates, our city, you have to provide this service, and there's no revenue source identified for it. But others, I think these are sneakier or subtle. The trend has been to increase reporting requirements on cities. So pick the issue du jour. Right now it's property taxes. It could be something else in the future. But if the legislature wants to collect data, they will mandate that cities have to compile information, put together a very detailed report, and then send that back to the state or to the Speaker's office, Senate President's office. Well, that information takes somebody away from their day job and the 6 hats that they're already wearing in local government. It adds another task to that list. It, I think, requires government salaries are tax dollars. So this person's pulled away from their normal duties. They put this report together. It gets sent to Tallahassee, and it goes in a filing cabinet and sits on a shelf. That is a mandate. That is a new responsibility we have to take on. We are less efficient in doing our normal jobs, and that just makes life even harder. So the legislature's hitting us on both sides of the balance sheet here. The revenues, we've talked about the potential cuts on that side. With increased expenses in some of these proposals, I think it's important for legislators to zoom out and see the big picture and think about how all of these different proposals work together. Florida, our economy is doing great. People, when they move here, and Florida has experienced some pretty significant growth, people are moving into cities. They're not moving into unincorporated areas, and I think that's because of the quality of life that we create in local government. When businesses move here, they want to move into cities, not into the unincorporated area. We need revenue to continue to provide the top-notch services that we provide. Cops deserve to be paid, firefighters, public works employees, Parks and Rec employees. I mean, that's the number one, I think, community amenity that we have. We provide these vital services. You can't do it with zero revenue. There needs to be money to pay for these services. And I think the one thing that I want you all to know is that we're fighting for you. It's important for you to be engaged. I want to spotlight Commissioner Williams-Cox. She has been just a fierce advocate on our team. She met with Senator Simon last week and was spreading the gospel to Senator Simon. So thank you, Commissioner Williams-Cox. But we'll need a continued effort going forward. And then we also need to make sure that we're educating the public. Because should something go on the ballot, we want voters to make an informed decision. If you just ask the average person, do you want to pay property taxes or not? I think the human response there is, no, I don't want to pay something if I don't have to. But we want to make sure that folks understand their yes vote and their no vote on any proposed constitutional amendment. Because frankly, if I'm giving Hulu $88 a month, I'm not getting anything near what I'm getting from the city of Tallahassee for $88 a month. And so I'll stop there. Mr. Goode, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if there are any questions, I'd love to hear them on the property tax stuff or any of the other bills that are out there, but I appreciate the invite to come and speak with you today.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions? Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Thank you. Casey, as always, you're at the bat and you're knocking it out the park. You're not striking out. One of the things that the League of Cities has provided to us as a resource, among a lot of other things, this little book that has all the capital contacts. This year, it was updated with those members who have had prior municipal experience, because they will understand the plight of cities. So if anyone, have a relationship, you see someone from your hometown or whatever that has a municipal experience, you need to remind them how important those local dollars are and how important it is that we continue to be able to live in cities that are able to move people forward and have a great quality of life. The Florida League of Cities also has a link that you can use as another resource that you can put in your city, whatever city you want to figure out what's going on back at home. If property taxes are removed, you can put in the city, and it will give you that information. And I think we've shared it. The other thing that happens is that during the legislative session, there's a phone call every Monday where the Florida League of Cities provides updates on, they're dividing and conquering. So they got, their whole team has divided up these bills that they're tracking, and they're letting you know what's going on, how they're progressing, where they are, if they're gonna come to the floor, if they need people to come over. And they also let you know whether they oppose or approve. So that helps as well, so that when we're speaking to our legislators, we are all speaking from the same sheet of music. So I encourage you to go out and take a look at the Florida League of Cities website. It's a treasure trove of information that can be used to help us navigate. And there are 411 cities, towns, and villages, right, in the state of Florida. And so when we're having our meetings, and they're always talking about, but when you go to Tallahassee, this, and this. So early, well, I'm on the board of directors to represent this commission. So early on, I was like, excuse me, you need to make a distinction between going to Tallahassee and going to the Capitol. Because the Capitol is in Tallahassee, that does not make it Tallahassee, because City of Tallahassee, we're in the same boat that you all are in. So Casey, I say this all the time, you all are doing a tremendous job, great job, and they're easily accessible. Y'all like Dion, y'all ain't hard to find. They're right behind City Hall, right in City Hall. And so do a tremendous job under the executive director of our Jeannie Gardner and all of the staff persons there. So thank you for the work that you all do. Thank you for the sleep you're gonna lose. Don't look like you're gonna be sleeping for another year. So we're here to help where we can.
Absolutely. Any other questions, comments? Casey, thank you again. Also, the League of Cities has a marketing program for each of the cities, and you can get that information. I guess it's on the website as well.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So our website is flcities.com, and this summer we started working and we put together data packets. We wanted cities to be able to tell their individual stories when they were sitting down with legislators. And so we have a property tax toolkit that we've developed that's on our website. You can easily find it on there. But the other thing that's, I think, interesting for the public to see is we've done over 200 different data packets. So more than half the cities in the state have been covered, and it has information like what's the average property tax bill in the city for the city's component. If you look in your staff analysis, one of the downsides to property taxes is that you get one bill, but it's really 5 bills or 6 bills in one. And so everyone just goes to the bottom right-hand corner of their trim notice and they look at the dollar amount, and they don't necessarily make the connection. What percentage of this goes to the city? What percentage goes to the county, schools, et cetera? In the city of Tallahassee, I think it's 22 cents, right? 22 or 23 cents from your property tax bill, or every dollar of your property tax bill actually goes to the city of Tallahassee. The bulk goes to Leon County here. Schools are in second place. Cities are in third. Those numbers change across the state. That's something interesting to see. But the other thing it also shows some of the challenges that cities face, right? City of Tallahassee is a good example of that. We are a government town, right? You have the city, you have the county, you have Florida State, you have FAM, you have TCC. There's a number of parcels that are completely exempt from paying property taxes. Other county seats around the state have a similar challenge. The other thing that these data packets look at, and I think this is something that's not talked about enough, is Save Our Homes and the impact of Save Our Homes. Save Our Homes was put into the Constitution to protect homeowners. What has happened over time, though, is there is this separation between market value and taxable value because of Save Our Homes. And so when you start thinking about what that really means is that my parents who've lived in their house for 40 years are getting a heck of a deal because they're not paying anywhere close to what they should be paying because of Save Our Homes. My wife and I just moved into a house and we have very little Save Our Homes benefit built up. So we're paying full freight. And so there are scenarios around the state and here in the city of Tallahassee where one neighbor's paying 25% of what the person next door is because of Save Our Homes. I think that's an important thing to remember because cities are remarkably diverse. One of the exercises we've done is we've gone through and calculated the median and average assessed values for every city in the state. So think about this, Greenville, Florida, just to our east here, Madison County. The average assessed value for a homestead property in Greenville, Florida is $38,000. Now contrast that with Indian Creek, a really small, very affluent city down in Miami-Dade County. The average assessed value for a homestead property in Indian Creek is $15 million. So think about this. When we go back to this super homestead exemption concept for those folks that have insurance, a $200,000 homestead exemption, Indian Creek may be able to survive. How does Greenville? And then I want you to think about more than half the cities in the state, the average assessed value for homestead properties is below $250,000. What does that do to their homestead property tax base? Should you have a super exemption type thing go on the books? That's going to be significant for cities, and it's going to force us to make some really hard decisions. There's also the prohibitions in at least one of these proposals that say you cannot cut public safety funding. And for many cities, they can cut every other service that they provide besides public safety. They're still going to have a deficit. They would have no choice. So what are they supposed to do? Others just become glorified public safety agencies because that's the only money they have to cover the cost of public safety. And I think that significantly reduces the quality of life that we experience in cities and all of the reasons that make people want to move here and become residents of Florida. And so when we're talking to the public, when we're talking to legislators, we're trying to make sure that folks understand the real-world impacts of these proposals so that when they go to the ballot box, they can make an informed decision and hopefully make the right decision. I know that was a very long answer to your comment/question, but I did want to make sure I added that stuff. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Absolutely, that was important. Any other questions?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you for the presentation. I think you highlight most of the issues. I wanted to add, you mentioned the burden falling on business owners, which I think is very real, but it also, if it's for rental properties that are operated as businesses, a lot of that burden will shift to rental properties, and then that burden would shift to tenants. So, having these giant slashes in homesteaded property taxes leads to higher rents and affordability for everyone. So there's not an easy fix there. I'd also say, I think it is incumbent on all of us as cities to always try to maintain a lean budget, to not have things that can be pointed at as wasteful spending. But I would say in your personal budget, if you go to Las Vegas once a month and you wanted to rein that in, the solution isn't to lose your job and have no income. Certainly that would stop the wasteful spending, but then you're going to lose your home, you're going to lose your car. And much like in our cities, if we want to see our roadways start crumbling, we want to see parks not open, parks not expanded, all the things we enjoy as a city that people come here to Tallahassee for the quality of life, we need to push back against this. And, in Tallahassee, I think we have a very enlightened community that understands investing in services. We saw that with children's services. We see that with our schools infrastructure. So, we stand at the ready, and I'm sure the people of Tallahassee do as well, to oppose this. But wherever we can fit into the conversation, we want to be a part of it. Thank you.
And
Mr.
Casey,
Mayor Pro Tem.
Commissioner Porter?
Thank you. I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you for being here and for speaking on our behalf up there.
Has there been any discussion on, if any of this passes and goes into effect, of replacing that revenue?
It's a great question, and for those that might not have been able to hear it, but essentially it was, have we had any conversations about revenue replacement should cities lose a significant chunk of their property tax revenue? The short answer to that is no. I can say that typically that would show up in implementing bills, and because it's a unique situation this year where there are not implementing bills accompanying these property tax proposals, there hasn't been any sort of conversation, except for there is a proposal out there that would provide an offset for fiscally constrained counties. There are 29 of them around the state. They're predominantly your rural counties. There is a bill that's filed by two legislators. Kaylee Tuck is the House sponsor, that would provide some revenue replacement for fiscally constrained counties. But what's also important to note is it does not provide revenue replacement for the cities within fiscally constrained counties. Tallahassee is obviously not in a fiscally constrained county, and so there are no proposals that would provide this silver bullet so that everything would be good should property tax reform happen. But I would expect that would have to be part of the conversation should the legislature agree to put something on the ballot.
Right. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Mr. City Manager. Thank you, Casey. We appreciate all the good work that the league does on our behalf.
Yes, sir.
And let us know if there's anything that we can do. I mean, we're right here, so anything that we can do as the session progresses, let us know.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we're doing very well with the schedule.
Yeah.
I recommend we go ahead and take the break.
Okay.
And reconvene at 12.
At 12. All right. We'll be back at 12.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and call the retreat back to order. And first of all, I want to thank the Mayor Pro Tem and my colleagues. I had to deal with some family issues this morning, and I heard everything went really smooth without me, so there you go. Can't beat that. Curtis, thank you, though. I appreciate it. And Mr. Manager, if you don't mind, if we can spend some time later on, you can bring me up to speed on everything that happened this morning, that'd be great. Let's just go ahead and open it up for commission discussion. We have plenty of time this afternoon to wrap up and talk about what's important. Anybody like to kick us off? Commissioner Matlow.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question first?
Oh, sure.
Is there going to be a review on options for addressing the revenue gap?
You know,
Is there a presentation on that?
Let me pass it back to the manager since I'm a little out of pocket here on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner, we didn't have any additional follow-up discussion today on it. In your agenda materials are our best estimates on impact, but of course, the timing of your budget workshop, your next budget workshop coincides with what bills may begin to emerge, and we'll include that at that time. You did hear from Casey Cook, and he talked about, the range of possible impacts, uncertainty in terms of any kind of make-whole revenue, implementing bills, and so as we get more information, we'll include that as we move forward. The concept is any kind of potential constitutional amendment moving forward would be on the general election ballot in November, so it would be for a future year as well. So we didn't plan for any additional discussion today.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
All right, Commissioner Matley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome, everybody, to 2026. I don't know about y'all. I'm glad 2025 is over. It was a rocky year, I think, nationally and personally. Mr. Mayor, if I have time, I'd just like to go through a few of the priorities I have for this year.
Sure.
And we spoke of some of these earlier, but I just wanted to reiterate and look for places that we can expand and strengthen on our objectives. A priority of mine has always been making Tallahassee a more business-friendly city, particularly in the permitting process and for smaller startups that are looking to do business in Tallahassee. And I think we continue to struggle. As a small business owner, we recognize when we hear a complaint once or twice, it might just be off the cuff or a bad experience. When we start hearing it 5, 10, or when we hear it for years at a time, we have something more structural that we need to address. And so looking at our permitting process and staffing collectively and looking how we can do better. How do we really have a customer service focused approach with a point of contact for small business owners when they come to our town to operate, who can then identify the types of issues that people see and deal with on a day-to-day basis, and make sure we have staff in place who are actually identifying those issues, logging them, collecting that data so we can go in and actually identify problems and find the fixes and address them. I think a lot of them are one-off problems. Things we hear consistently are, we don't know who to talk to. We come down, we get bounced around between a bunch of different offices, and it's confusing. I think those are types of structural changes that can be addressed with just a focus on solving that problem, making sure when people start a business here, they have a single point of contact, and anything that's slowing down the process that can be addressed, we address it. On growth, I think we have a great opportunity this year to restart a community-led comprehensive plan discussion. I think what we went through last year was rocky at best. We ended in a position where many of our neighborhoods were dissatisfied with their ability to provide input, to frame the conversation. We ended up with landowners and developers who were unhappy with where we landed. And I think we need to have a community-led conversation on what the future of Tallahassee is going to look like. I think as a community value, we need to adopt the idea that sprawl has to come to an end. We can't continue to sprawl our boundaries further into the forest. We're running out of space anyway, and we need to get serious about what it looks like developing urban infill while protecting the characters of neighborhoods that aren't under threat from redevelopment anyway. I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit we can look to. Particularly the large-scale asphalt parking lots all across our community. You could look to areas like Town South and Piggly Wiggly, I think are two of the largest that you'll see that parking takes up way more than any of the usable space. We're doing a great job already, I think, on Northwood Mall with both housing and the police station. There's other parcels on North Monroe, Appalachian Parkway, all across our city where we can build dense urban infrastructure that works with our existing infrastructure that doesn't cost us tens, hundreds of millions of dollars in expansion. I think we need to re-emerge the parking minimums conversation as part of the update. I don't think we should have parking minimums within the urban core. I think as part of that, we can plan for what parking could look like in the future, create more opportunity for private sector, public parking, structured parking, much like we're shifting with regional stormwater facilities. We need to look at parking regionally much more than just individual parcels and create more opportunity. We talked earlier about quality of life and the impact of poverty and how we can strengthen that goal specifically. It was mentioned that connecting with services isn't moving the needle in the way that we want. We recognize we're seeing wide-scale economic impact forecasts in the billions of dollars when new things come online, from Doak Campbell Stadium to the airport, But what we're not seeing is that translate into real wages for the people that live in Tallahassee. We're not seeing people earn more than they did 5, 6 years ago when adjusted for inflation. So their economic prosperity is not being distributed throughout our community as we grow. And I think that's something we need to laser focus and target exactly how we can move impact. So I would suggest we add a few goals specifically that we can track that help the people that need the help the most in our community. One of those is in regards to housing. Commissioner Porter mentioned earlier, and housing's difficult, and we've done a tremendous job of getting new development to come online, and some of it to be affordable. But the truth is, the vast majority of the housing that we built is at 100% of AMI or more, not affordable to 50% of our community. We do some at 80, 60, and maybe 40, but we're still leaving out a large subset of our community that no new housing brought online is being available at that price point, and we're not freeing up other units because the most inexpensive units are being demolished throughout the year. So people at that price point are now being forced to either relocate to Wacola County, Jefferson County, Crawfordville, those sorts of things. And to get ahead of that, as part of our strategic plan, we need to set unit goals on how many units need to be affordable for low and very low rental housing. I think we can set concrete goals such as, 500 units in the next 4 years that will be available at this price point. Further addressing poverty, childcare, I think, is a big issue that when we look at the big issues that are really affecting people's pocketbooks, it's the price of housing, it's childcare access, and it's personal crises that disrupt the day-to-day of a family's life. So adding childcare access, we talked about this over the course of the last year, Mr. Mayor, a couple years. I know there's efforts by the mayor's office to bring a universal 24-hour childcare facility. I'd like to jumpstart that conversation again today. Look where we can start that and where we can expand it. We're seeing tremendous success in other cities pushing this. We just saw New Mexico adopt universal childcare for the entire state. So I think there's momentum for Tallahassee to be the leader in childcare and welcoming new families to our community. But we have to put it in our strategic plan and prioritize expansion with a goal, an end goal of universal childcare for our entire community. And on the last, for poverty and on the impact of poverty, we mentioned families in crisis. So much of poverty can be impacted if you can just stop the moment when things really fall apart. That's violence interruption for a lot of people, and we do some good work on that. That's homelessness prevention, helping people with rent that's in arrears, and tenant mediation. That's reentry support for the formerly incarcerated. There's all these specific moments in time when everything can go wrong for an individual, and the impact is that poverty rate that continues to climb. And if we can intercept people in their most needed moments, we can really start to see a decline in that poverty percentage. And I would say we need to have that be a goal, a lowering poverty rate. I know it's not unachievable. It's has to be very intentional and targeted, but I don't think we can say it's a bigger problem, it's a nationwide problem, because other communities are able to address it and see the needle move in the right direction. On quality of life, I'll start by saying I think Tallahassee probably has the best quality of life in the entire state of Florida. There isn't any other city in the state that I would rather live in, from my daily commute to the parks and recs, to the trails, to the waterways nearby. Like, I love Tallahassee, and I think most people who live here are here for that reason. It's not just about affordability or job security. It's because Tallahassee is a special place. We have a great community, and I think we can further enhance that selectively. So my list here isn't isn't revolutionary. It's just little improvements that I think we can make to the day-to-day life of people in Tallahassee, and just kind of what I've collected over the past year from constituents. One I hear the loudest from young families is just shade and water features in public parks. Particularly, a lot of our newer parks have less shade than previous parks. When we look at FAMU Way, we hear the same about the playgrounds at Tom Brown Park. My favorite park is Winthrop Park. Amazing tree coverage. You can go there all summer long. But just looking at the long-term impacts of climate change and reducing the temperature on children playing outside. And then the second is, I have a list, Mr. Manager, of just a dozen or so kind of potholes and roadway issues that I've heard from people over the last year. Is there a master list of when those would get repaired that we can look to, or should I send them individually to your office?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. No, please send them to us. We don't delay the repair of potholes. In terms of resurfacing, that would be different. That's scheduled and structured. But in terms of, defects in the road, potholes, yeah, please send them to us. We'll fix them right away. Mr. Mayor, I probably should add, assuming it's a city road, I can't speak for the state roadways and county roadways. We can't do those, of course.
I'll send that to you. Some of them I think are pothole specific, like Monticello Road. I think a lot of them, I think the concern is more just resurfacing and general degradation. So on those, is there something similar to the sidewalk prioritization chart that we can point to for citizens, or is it the squeaky wheel is going to get the grease on this?
No, actually, there is a plan. It is not as prescriptive as, you work down the plan. It takes a lot of things into consideration. You'll recall, the commission had an update on that probably 2 years ago, where we've adopted an even more aggressive master plan, where some of our roadways that could be of a newer age receive a micro treatment. So it's not a full overlay, and that preserves the life. So there's a very good plan that's based on our master plan that's driven by roadway conditions. So we can certainly provide information from time to time. I'll get requests and somebody will point to a roadway, and it may be 2 years out. I mean, it may not be immediate, but we've got a schedule. We have an anticipated time frame of road maintenance. So yeah, please share it with me and we can get the information.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. And just the last thing I will touch on under quality of life is arts and culture in our community. We continue to have challenges with state funding, different grants. Maybe that'll change in the upcoming year. We don't know, but keeping that as a community value. Everybody loves the events in Cascades Park. They've been fantastic, but the more we can approach that, particularly looking at local resources and local funding to enhance that aspect of quality of life. I know that's a bit of an information dump. I know it's the retreat, so I just wanted to get a bunch of things on record that I'll be advocating for throughout the year, just in advance at this kind of setting meeting. But I reiterate, I appreciate everybody coming today, working for the betterment of Tallahassee, and hope that 2026 is the best year yet. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Thank you. As Commissioner Matlow was talking, something came to mind. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. City of Tallahassee is a beautiful place. And if you go other places and you meet with other cities, and like I said, there are 411 cities, towns, and villages in the state of Florida, they want to know how we're doing such a phenomenal job here in Tallahassee. That is no lie. They do ask that, and some of them have come and visited to find that information out. In a couple of weeks, on the 27th, those cities, towns, and villages will be coming to Tallahassee for legislative action days, and they'll meet in our chambers, and then they'll go over and meet with their legislators. But while they're in town, they'll be partaking of a lot of the things that we offer here in Tallahassee, and those are the times when we really get pulled aside and asked, how do you do this? And I want to talk to you about how we do that. And in fact, at the legislative conference that I attended, one of the commissioners from the West wanted to know, how do we do our longest table? So I put them in touch with Allison to find out how to do the longest table. So I say this, that while we have some opportunities to do things differently and better, our story is what we've got to tell to make sure that folks know that we are open for business. We have this is the capital city. And when I introduce myself at the Florida League of Cities, as we go around to introduce ourselves, I tell them that, I am Diane Williams-Cox from your capital city, because I'm very proud of the fact that we are the capital of Florida, and we have a lot going on here. I mentioned earlier about the world came here just this past weekend, and the world is in and out at all different times. We have students from all over the world. But this handout, which includes all of the slides that we saw today, in a nutshell, talks about what we did in 2025. And I just asked the manager, can we make this available to on our website for folks to view who may not have been able to tune in to the retreat, or send it out to those individuals who we have email addresses for, because they're our utility customers. When I first came to the commission, my chief of staff, Dr. Davis, and I embarked upon doing something like that and sent it to some folks. And the response was overwhelmingly very good, because they said that they had not received that kind of information in the past. People want to know what we're doing. I know we're doing it. We're trying to tell them. Fortunately, we have our own ways of doing it. We have our own television channel. We have our own website. We have all the communication tools that we need. Because unfortunately, we have some folks who have access to ink, I'll just say it like that don't necessarily tell our story like it needs to be told. It's slanted. And it causes the community to be divided. And what we've got to do is that we've got to breach that gap by giving facts and not playing to emotion, but letting folks know this is what's happening in Tallahassee, and educating people on how we're doing what we're doing. We are having a great impact on poverty. When we're graduating almost 500, around 500 people from Tempo, that means that folks now have a GED, that they can now go to college, they can go to trade school, they can start doing their own business. That is life-altering and life-changing, because now people have a way to earn a living so that they can come up out of poverty. And so that impact. The TIFLA program, where we bring young people in the summertime and pay them to work. These are not free jobs. Pay them to work. And I remember several years ago when I asked the students, what are you going to do with your first paycheck? They were going to buy food. That's what they said. These things are life-changing. And whether someone tracks the data on it or not, you will find that many of those folks end up working right here in the city of Tallahassee. They graduate from Tempo, or they finish school out of from TIFLA, and they come to work to the city of Tallahassee, and that changes their lives. So we talk about wages in this area. The city of Tallahassee is the place to work. It's the place to retire from. The retirees come back, they're all smiling and happy. I talk to them, and they are happy that they are retired, because the great investment that they made to prepare for retirement, because they worked at the city of Tallahassee, where almost every year there is a pay increase because we approved the budget to allow that to happen. I've worked for the state of Florida. That doesn't happen all the time with the state of Florida. The city outpaces the state in wages. So we're doing our part. We need other partners to jump in and help. So I say all of that to say this. We got it good in Tallahassee, and if you don't believe that, just stay woke. Pay attention to what's happening in other places around the state. While we have opportunities to do things better, we are taking those opportunities, and we're turning, where there are lemons, we're turning them into lemonade. And we're in the throes right now of doing something historic, not just for this city, not just for this county, but for this region, and therefore for the state of Florida. So goes Tallahassee, so goes the rest of the state, and so goes this region. And I thank each and every one of you, City of Tallahassee employees from the top to the bottom, for the role you play in making sure that Tallahassee continues to be the beautiful place that she is. More people are coming. We've got to prepare for them. Because, when you market it, they will come, and they're coming, and they're finding that it is good here in Tallahassee. And sometimes we don't get the message out there. Others don't get our message out there like we want it. But it's our job to correct it. And I am a self-appointed corrector. Whenever I see it, I go straight to the source and correct it. Now, they may not reprint it or re-air it, but it has been corrected. And so I just want to say it is our job to make sure that we do our best to hold our city high. It ain't what they call you, it's what you answer to. And I'm not answering anything less than the all-America city that Tallahassee is for the third time. That doesn't mean we don't have challenges. That means we have opportunities to be the great America, the all-America city, the fourth time, fifth time, the sixth time, however many times we choose to go after it. That's our focus, to make sure our residents and our people are taken care of. So when folks ask them, what say ye about your city? And they will be able to say good things about our city. Thank you.
Commissioner Porter?
Did no one else want to speak? Just curious. Okay.
Next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you from the bottom of my heart to all the staff who are here and the work that you do. I have some comments, and I'm sure they'll sound familiar because I've made these same comments, I think, at every single one of these retreats. I think that this strategic plan was a great first step as our first strategic plan, but my concern is that our targets tell me what we are trying to do, but they don't really tell me how close we are to addressing the need. So, like, for example, and it's not that we don't have an answer, but when I'm just reading it, I don't really know whether we're meeting the need. So, for example, for Economic Development Objective 1.2, one of our objectives is to create or permit 10 million square feet of new commercial space permitted. Can anyone tell me where that target came from or whether that meets the need of small businesses or businesses of all size? That's where I struggle when I see like 30 million for stormwater improvements. Does that 30 million meet a specific goal, or is that just a number? And obviously, we have competing priorities, we have finite resources, so it's not that I expect every target to be what would meet the need, but I need a little bit more to understand whether just because we're meeting a goal doesn't mean that that goal is addressing the need. So could someone speak to that? And you can use anything as an example, but I guess specifically, just as an example, the 10 million square feet of new commercial space permitted. What does that mean? Where did that come from?
Dr. Wood?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question, Commissioner. As you'll recall, when we went through this process, 18 months ago, and updating the 5-year strategic plan for the next 5 years, we talked a lot about the development of the targets and the 9 months that this team spent with all of our department directors across the organization as the subject matter experts. And so the targets came from a lot of historical information. Obviously, permitting commercial square feet has to do with what we want to see investment, not just, investment Tallahassee money, but money coming from outside of Tallahassee getting invested in our community to grow, the economic pool that way. And so looking at historical trends and where we see growth opportunities, a lot of the targets are targets that we do believe that we can reach. Some of them, as you know, are stretch targets, but all of them have been informed by the priorities that have been set by the commission, but then also really specifically by our department subject matter experts and what they're seeing in each of their industries, and where the commit and how do we tie that in with what the commission wants to see, if it's economic development, if it's growth there, if it's increase in jobs, and kind of connecting all of that together. So I appreciate the question, and all of those, again, like I've said, have been tied to the trends that we've seen in kind of each industry, and we're involved, of course, in just a significant number of industries across the organization.
Thank you. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot with this question, but who could answer that question specifically about where that 10 million comes from and how we got there?
I mean, we could bring our growth management director, John Reddick, up, and he can talk about the trends that we've seen there. But that was a collaborative process between the growth management department that we're seeing there, planning department, obviously the discussions that have been had in relation to the comp plan and how all of those pieces play together, and looking at what do we want to see overall, and we do want to see commercial growth, which plays a significant role in another target that we track, which is the creation of new jobs, right? And so when we see that happening, we see the job pool expanding, we see that going up, we see wages increasing. All of those play in tandem. It's sometimes not a clear one-to-one, as you understand, but that would be where that came from.
And as we are tracking this target, and this one just as an example, are we tracking, and I brought part of this up in my briefing yesterday, one thing I hear a lot of is a lack of entry-level brick-and-mortar retail and commercial spaces for new businesses, small businesses that don't need $10,000, 10,000 square feet. Are we tracking sort of the breakdown of these new permitted commercial spaces? Are we differentiating between commercial spaces that are a chicken shop versus, a local business? Are we, doing additional analysis or tracking?
Thank you. Yeah, of course. Yeah, actually let Dr. Drummondville address that one.
Yes, Commissioner, that is something that's tracked by the Growth Management Department. They break it down into very minute detail in terms of the types of permits, but they collect all of that data based on the size of the space that's being permitted, minor commercial, major commercial, all different kinds of categories, so they do track that information.
Okay, thank you. And to be clear, I don't mean to imply that that there's no reason, that this number came out of thin air or that we're not tracking these things. But I'm only seeing what I see right in front of me, which is the strategic plan. And so as a member of this commission, as I am evaluating our own performance, I need to know, obviously, whether these targets mean something as far as accomplishing a goal. I think my final question, and I want to thank Commissioner Matlow. I think he brought up a lot of priorities that I agree with and that we've discussed as a commission at these retreats and during our meetings. And I'd like to see us be more ambitious in really going after some of these goals that we've discussed. I mean, this is a great starting point, but there really are so many things, and I know that y'all here know that because you are experts in your field. So you are tracking what other cities are doing, where other communities are seeing success, and I know that you're bringing back to to us here in Tallahassee, but there is so much more that we could be doing to meet these needs, and I'm sure, and I know that we have the talent and capacity to do that, and I want staff to feel emboldened and empowered to bring those ideas to us. But and along those lines, like, what are we learning throughout this process as we're tracking? Obviously, this is a multi-year strategic plan. I know that staff bring ideas to us all the time as you identify needs and ways for us to improve our processes. But, what can anyone speak to a roadblock that they've experienced in trying to achieve these targets or goals, and ideas that are coming out of that we can, as a commission, lead on to improve outcomes? Because I haven't heard that today necessarily, and I know that today is not the only time we're all speaking, but that's what I would like to see too, is, these are the goals and these are all the things that we're learning over the course of many years that will help us reach those goals. That wasn't a rhetorical question. If anyone is,
Looking
can
for,
anyone
you're looking
answer?
for an answer. Mr. Manager, we'll start with you. What are some of the roadblocks that we face around here?
I think I would probably answer the question differently. I think I understand the point. I'll just go back to kind of my point of view of the strategic plan and how it helps us. We have probably the greatest breadth of city services of any municipality in the state. I think I can remove the word probably. So we do a lot for our citizens. And so you have departments that are working very independently and they're carrying out their mission. And the strategic plan kind of sets that frame. It really helps set the framework of what are the priorities of the commission and how do they, at the department level and down, how do they measure success. And forgive me, I'm just going to go on a kind of a roundabout way of answering the question. I think I'm hopefully hitting the point here. And so that helps them. So if at the department level, feel the need for resources or changes, it will drive what that is. Oftentimes, we will flesh that out in the budgetary process. I'll use police as an example because we talk about that a lot. You have a lot of priorities in your strategic plan related to public safety. And the commission, or the question was asked earlier of, do we have enough police officers? That would be from the point of view of the police chief and his expert staff. Do we have the resources necessary to reduce violent crime? That would be like an obstacle. Let's say, in the viewpoint of the experts, they don't. In fact, they don't. I mean, I think the chief did a great job answering that question earlier. We're growing toward that end. And in your strategic plan, you've included that we will add 5% net new positions, sworn officers every year to kind of grow the size of force. So normally the way you would see those areas where the departments feel constrained and unable to achieve the strategic priorities of the commission, you would see them emerge either just in day-to-day management. They would work with me or Karen or any of the executive team and try to clear those hurdles. Or if it's a policy level issue, you do get those agenda items from time to time from us, or a budgetary issue. And so that's kind of how you see that life cycle of the strategic priorities set the framework. The departments are managing toward that, and it's been amazingly effective, by the way. In fact, all the slides you saw, that as Dr. Whitley said, we just scratched the surface on the number of strategic priorities and the metrics that we're tracking. So we've created this very comprehensive dashboard that could be 10 times broader. That helps us measure, and then that does trigger the resource need. And so I think you just see it in part of your normal process. It's not a moment in time where the laundry list of needs, we try to stay on top of it. If we're not tracking in the right direction, we would address it. I think the question about commercial square feet is spot on. But that would have been our historical baseline, would have told us, hey, if we're not at least achieving that, and if we have more need for commercial space, we need to increase that goal. So that's how we would have determined that. Or that it's the airport in terms of tons of cargo that get shipped in. We know we want to grow that, and so we base it on the historical area. And I'll pick on David Pollard for a second because he's not shy of telling you what his roadblocks are. He does a great job in advocating locally, state, national. So I think it's just you see it very organically, and it happens, and it's really brought about by the departments, their efforts to try to achieve those strategic priorities that are set in the plan. And again, we could have a lot more. I agree. I would like a lot more. This is how I like to measure things, with actual measurements and not feel. And so you just, at some point, you put it together the best you can. You have the priorities that seem to make sense. So I know I kind of swerved around a little bit on that answer, but I think that's the answer, how it starts. The commission sets the priorities and how it goes through its cycle of achieving those objectives.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, some of our targets it seems we are very close to reaching, or maybe have already reached. What do we do at that point as we go along? We're only 1 year in. How are we adjusting?
Dr. Whitley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner, for the question. What you would have seen, of course, from the last plan, some of the targets and particularly in the last plan, it was our first time doing it, so some of them we definitely surpassed. So we tried to increase those this time. We talked about the airport. It was mentioned earlier, we set a goal for $1 billion annual economic impact. We believe we're right all over it, but that was, we don't have the measurement. Right when we were ending the plan, we're right there, the next measurement in a couple years. So we've set another goal to increase it by another 25%. I mean, that's significant. That's not we can do this without even thinking about it, right? I think another one that is a great example that Chief Sanders talked about today is the ISO rating. So the chief came and said, even with an ISO 2, here's what we need. My expertise and my team tells us that we need to meet this. And of course, with the direction of the commission, here's how we believe that what we believe we can actually achieve. Now, with the direction of the commission related to that. To the ISO rating, which again, as the chief said, not just for rating's sake, but for personnel safety, for decreased response time. So I think there's a couple examples. We adjust as you would expect us to. There will likely be targets that we won't fully hit, and some of the targets are lumpy, as you would imagine. So we talked about the grant dollars. So the target in this 5-year plan is $250 million grant dollars brought in over 5 years. We brought in $66.5 million last year. So you would think we're going to way overshoot it. Well, I think we all know that the federal funding landscape is changing pretty significantly. So that may not. We may not overshoot that. In 1 year, we may get, $20 or $30 million, and then we may. So a lot of the goals are lumpy, as you would imagine, and so some of them are annual targets, and some of them are targets that we're measuring over the life of it. But we adjust, and I think probably one of the best examples is, as I said, the ISO example that the chief talked about already this morning.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a whole lot to add. I do want to say ditto to Commissioner Williams-Cox in her presentation. It was very comprehensive and covered a lot of the issues that we've addressed here in the community. As the dean of the commission, I've been here almost 10 years now, and I've seen a lot of progress made. When I came to the commission, we didn't have a strategic plan. Individual departments may have had a strategic plan, but an overall strategic plan for the city didn't exist. And so I think I feel comfortable with the kind of progress that we've made, the measurements, the goals that we've set, the measurements that are out there. Are we perfect? No. But as you've seen from the awards and recognitions that the city has received, we're doing something right. And I think we're the example for many municipalities, if not all municipalities, throughout the state of Florida. We're the example for them to emulate. I hear nothing but positive things, or primarily, I won't say nothing but primarily positive things from citizens in our community in terms of the improvements that they see being made. I had a fraternity brother of mine tell me that I was ubiquitous. I didn't know what the hell ubiquitous was. But I found out. It means everywhere, all the time. And that's what I try to be. That's the basis of my community service, is being where the people are. So that when I walk into Piggly Wiggly to buy groceries, people can say, Commissioner, I didn't get my garbage picked up last week. And I can call the city manager, and he'll tell you I do it all the time. And they get their garbage picked up by the end of the day. And so those are the kinds of things that we're striving to achieve. I think we're making tremendous progress in that regard in every area of the programs and services that we provide here in the city of Tallahassee. We've got a tremendous staff. I would put our staff up against any here in the state of Florida and probably throughout the nation in terms of their level of expertise, what they put into the job that they do, and the results that are achieved for our citizens. We've still got a lot to do. We've got, of course, as you've heard from the other commissioners, goals that we need to achieve in other areas. But I think we're doing a tremendous job, and that was evidenced by what we've heard in this presentation this morning. The one thing that I would like to see us continue to do, and it's personal in one respect because of where I have chosen to live for the last 30 years on the south side of Tallahassee, I would like to see us continue to invest in those neighborhoods that have been neglected over the years. We've made tremendous progress, but there's still room for improvement in that regard as well, in terms of improving the quality of life for the citizens who choose to live in those areas. So that's about what I have to include to the conversation, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. Well, let me bring this in for, do you have any final comments? No, sir. Okay, I'll bring this in for Landon. And again, I want to thank you all for carrying on without me this morning. I heard we had a wonderful retreat, and I look forward to hearing all about it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my 8th and final retreat as your mayor. As you know, I'm not going to be seeking re-election. And this is one of the final times that I'm going to be able to address this large of the team together. And I just want to say thank you. Mm-hmm. I am so proud to work with each and every one of you in your own expertise in your own departments, which makes me so proud of this community because you truly are the best of the best. You know, let us not forget that while many people think that we're just a sleepy little community, we are the 10th largest city out of 411 in the state of Florida. But we're also recognized for our excellence, department by department by department. I know that Mike from Fleet's here, our latest national #1. Mike, where are you? Somewhere?
He's here.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, great job. Really appreciate you. That's right. That's right. That's right. And you're absolutely right. Everybody has a role to play. You know, my role is, as mayor, is #1 to be, the chief cheerleader, representing us at community events. But also my role is blocking and tackling for each and every one of you. You know, when I can make your job easier so you excel and you look great, we all do well together. And so this year, we're going strong. We're going hard. My job is to do everything I can to support each and every one of you so that you are the best that you can be in your own right moving forward. Tallahassee is unique, and sometimes we tend to forget that. We are the capital city and the only one in Florida. I believe we're still the only municipality that owns and operates all of the utilities in the state of Florida. That makes us unique. The breadth of services that we provide is extremely unique, and you all rise to the top each and every day. Of course we have goals, and of course we have work to do. You don't need me to tell you that. You all identify and let us know how we can move forward because you're experts in your field. But I'm going to do this every time I can as we get together, not only to roll up my sleeves and work with each and every one of you, but truly to say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for everything that you do to make this city so absolutely wonderful and the all-American city that she is. With that, we are adjourned. I will see everybody at the City Commission meeting at 3 o'clock today.
All right.